'cause I give you all you need. And if I leave you on something, Lord, it's a mystery to me. You get everything you ask for. So
Yeah.
please explain.
Here we go again.
Not a cloud in the sky. Why still make it rain?
Good stuff. Right on. My goodness. Where are we at here? All right. Yeah. Nah, we're not going to call the cops on you, man. What I am going to do, though, is crack this beer. Hey, Samantha, welcome back.
Is your cup half empty? And is it always gonna be? When the sun is shining, I know the weather's gonna change. Not a cloud in the sky. Still find a way to make it rain. Still make it
You know it rained on my parade, and the Rebo man took my things away. The neighbor's dog got in my trash, and the horse I bet on it coming last. Busted and disgusted, driving on home, I looked up in the mirror and saw the Blues Patrol. They were coming right behind me. Everywhere I go, all of my dreams died on the vine, and my heart aches all the time. See, day to day, it's the same old grind, and I got trouble all in my mind. I went down to the preacher with my troubled soul. He said it ain't no way to save you from the blues patrol. My sex appeal when it gets so bad, I can't buy a thrill. You know I found it was an act. Seemed that my baby, she don't love me back. Gonna find me a woman who won't be so cold and finally get away from the blues patrol. Blues patrol. Blues patrol. Blues patrol. Blues patrol. Hey now. Hey now. Oh yeah. Oh
Get ready to hear the truth about America on a show that's not immune to the facts with your host, Dan Bongino.
All right, welcome to the Dan Bongino Show on a just incredibly busy news day. The whole show out the window before it even starts because we just, let me just get into this Michael Cohen thing, which just happened, Trump's former attorney, who minutes before we started recording, Joe was even in the car. Joe's like, what happened? Took a guilty plea, a surprising guilty plea, up in New York in federal courts, Trump's lawyer. And the media is in a frenzy, as they always are, Joe. The left-wing media. Mm-hmm. This is it. This is it. We're here. It's over for Trump. Impeachment. It's ladies and gentlemen, I know I don't need to tell you this, but to the liberal Looney Tunes watching right now who are salivating, the foam is coming out of the mouth. They're grabbing their friends by the shoulders. This is it. It's here. It's here. Calm down. Everybody take a pill. Turn off the left-wing media. This is the 5,462nd time we've heard how this is it. Finally, they got him. I'm going to tell you what's really going on. If you know, and you've been following the show for the last 2 or 3 days, it probably already makes sense to you what's going on. As narratives are being introduced and are slowly collapsing, new ones are coming in to fill the narrative hole. Everybody chill. I got this for you. Don't worry. One quick correction on yesterday's show, not slightly embarrassing. And unbelievable. Joe, we needed Jay's abacus yesterday. Yeah. There was a typo in Matt's piece about the taxes. The rich got a 2.6 percentage point tax, which is still less than the middle class. Not 1.6. Thank you, there. And me and you were making fun of it. We're like, what? I just read Matt's typo instead of looking at the numbers as I'm reading it. My fault. I'm not throwing Matt under the bus. Totally our fault. But it doesn't matter. It's still, our point is they still got a lesser percentage point tax cut than the middle class. So thank you for the 6,000 emails we received yesterday. As Joe and I are making fun of math. It's just, hey, you got to laugh at yourself sometimes. But thank you for the emails. I appreciate it. Okay, let's get right to this. Today's show brought to you by buddies at FilterBuy. FilterBuy does not have a problem with basic math. FilterBuy is great. Water filters. Plus, they work easy about it, but I can't disclose it yet, but you're all going to like it a lot. I got some really good stuff coming up. I'll tell you, Joe, after the show. But I promise you'll be the first to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, you go.
Okay, so here's what's really going on. It's desperation time for the Mueller team, okay? If you've been listening to the show for the last few days, you've seen a series of narratives being introduced through leaks. Who is leaking them? I don't know. I don't, when I speculate, I'm telling you I'm speculating, and I'm doing that now because I'm not sure who is leaking them. But a series of questions and answers from the Mueller probe. I have that up at my website today, on Bongino.com, and a bunch of really good articles. A series of questions and answers from the Trump team have leaked. A story about George Papadopoulos allegedly having some business dealings with a Russian leaked. The Jerome Corsi story's out. Not so much of a leak. Corsi's been out there in the public. The Manafort, Assange story. Here's what I'm telling you. The Mueller probe is at the end. Bob Mueller now realizes there's a significant Senate majority after Sidney Highsmith's win in Mississippi. It is now a 53-47. You see, we got that math right. Nice. 53-47 Republican Senate majority. All of these things are related. Here's the bottom line. Mueller has nothing. He's never had anything. The collusion story is a myth. Mueller can't stand Donald Trump. He hates Donald Trump. Mueller needs Trump to go down. He desperately wants Trump to go down. He is hiding significant stuff that the Obama administration did with regards to weaponized government. He's sweeping all of it under the curb, and he needs to keep the attention on Trump. The problem is he doesn't have anything on Trump. So they're floating various narratives out there. People either, I'm not sure who's doing it. People leaks from the probe, media people who are getting leaks from deep state players who hate Donald Trump, but they're leaking stories to damage Trump, throwing Jell-O up against the wall to see if something sticks. Are you tracking? This is really important. Mueller's team is trying to get this stuff out there to get the Trump team to make a misstep. So they're floating this stuff out there. What did we see on Monday? We saw the Paul Manafort met with Julian Assange story. That leaks because it's desperation time. They're trying to get anybody on the Trump team to say, oh, they're coming for me next. Let me tell them the real collusion story. Yesterday's show confused some people. I got a lot of good feedback, but some people didn't get it. Today's show is very simple. The Mueller team or somebody associated with or anti-Trump people in the media or the swamp are leaking stories to frighten the Trump team into submission, to get somebody, anybody, anyone to come forward with a key piece of information indicating any criminality whatsoever on behalf of Donald Trump or his family.
Hit the panic button, baby.
Mueller is in desperation time because once his special counsel investigation closes shop and the public pressure is getting overwhelming, they can't reopen again. There can be a new special counsel, but it's probably not going to be Bob Mueller. Bob Mueller can't stand this president. This guy has been hunting witches from the start. He has nothing. Please understand what I'm saying. There is no criminal liability on Donald Trump or his family with regards to this collusion thing at all. So they are floating various stories here. They're desperate to get someone to come forward. So what happened? What stories did they push and fell apart? Monday, they pushed the Manafort story. Why? Because Manafort was going to be the key to this whole Russian collusion thing. Manafort, don't you find it awfully coincidental, folks, that right around Monday or Tuesday, the story comes out that Manafort, the key player, according to to Bob Mueller's team, the key player to this Russian collusion scandal. I mean, who would know better than him, right, Joe? He was a senior level campaign official with the Trump team. If there was Russian collusion during the campaign, surely Paul Manafort would have known about it. Do you find it awfully coincidental that a story leaks out about Manafort's failure to provide information to the Mueller probe that was valuable in a prosecution of Donald Trump, right? That all of a sudden the story leaks out, Paul Manafort met with Julian Assange about the leaked DNC emails. It's a pressure tactic. This is obvious. They're trying to pressure Manafort to change his mind, to test the lie, to come forward and say, okay, I admit it, Donald Trump colluded, secretly met with the Russians to get Hillary's emails and impact the election. It's a pressure tactic. It's so obvious. Now, what happened? On Tuesday, that didn't work. Why? The Manafort team, instead of coming out and saying, oh, gosh, they got us now, Joe. They got us on this Assange leak. Now we're really in trouble. We better get out of this, and we better go back to Bob Mueller and provide information about collusion that didn't happen. What did Manafort do? Both Manafort and Assange came back, basically told Mueller to go pound sand, and threatened put $1 million bet out there and threatened a lawsuit to the Guardian newspaper that published this story, saying, I never met with Assange, and Assange said, I never met with Manafort. So there you go. Pressure tactic number one, to get someone to flip on Trump, doesn't work. Why? There's nothing to flip on. There's nothing to flip on. There is nothing to flip on, folks. There's no flipperooski possible because there's no information to give. So now, yes, I can see Mueller. Oh, I need Trump. I need Trump. I need him. So I can see him in his office. I can see desperation time in his office. What happens next? Papadopoulos tries to withdraw his plea. It doesn't work. Now they know Papadopoulos will be out of prison in 14 days. Actually, 12 days, I think, now, since he reported back earlier in the week. When Papadopoulos is out of prison, he's free and clear to talk. So all of a sudden, we see a story leak today. Amazing. In other words, you better shut this guy, because now Papadopoulos is free and clear, Joe. When he gets out of prison, he's done. Yep. His legal obligations to the justice system are over. He is free to talk as any American citizen. He has a First Amendment right like anyone else. You don't think Bob Mueller's crapping his pants now that he knows he has no cudgel over Papadopoulos at all? He has no more sentencing, no more leniency, no nothing. He is now free and clear, Papadopoulos, to talk. So what do we see again? We see this morning. This is why this is all coming out. It's desperation time. A leaked story. An anonymous informant said George Papadopoulos had a business dealing with the Russians that was going to make him very rich. I said, I don't know, folks. Maybe when George gets out of prison, we'll have him back on the show and we'll ask him what it's about. I don't know about the deal, but don't you find it awfully suspicious that a year and a half of 2 years of investigating George Papadopoulos have produced zero evidence of any corrupt business dealings with Russia? Remember, he was charged with false statements. Nothing to do with a Russian business deal at all. That all of a sudden, this story leaks out after the Manafort story leaks out and after both of them refuse to cooperate any further with the Mueller probe and went on the counterattack. You don't listen to me, liberal idiots out there. I'm sorry to be rude, but I mean this. You don't find that oddly coincidental? Manafort tells him to go pound sand. A story leaks. Oh, Manafort met with Assange. Manafort, instead of coming back and cooperating, doubles down. No, I didn't meet with Assange. Matter of fact, I'm going to sue the newspaper. Papadopoulos, I don't want to do this 14 days in jail. I'm rescinding my plea. Doesn't work. Judge says go to jail. Now, Mueller's crystal clear. Papadopoulos is going to get out and is probably going to talk and tell people what really happened. So what do? A story leaks out. Hey, there's some Russian out there. Says you had a business deal with Russians. In other words, Joe, what are they saying to Papadopoulos? You better shut your pie hole, your soup cooler, when you get out of prison, right? That's exactly what's going on. So now, this is all failing. This is all falling apart. They thought they had Jerome Corsi and Roger Stone. Roger Stone, who is, I don't even know what to describe, Republican strategist. I don't know how to describe. And Corsi, who's an author. I don't know these guys. I met Stone once. I talked to him for about 2 minutes while I was getting a car at an event in Florida. I don't know him. I've never met, Jerome Corsi. But Corsi and Stone, who were the allegations by Mueller that they were coordinating some WikiLeaks release of damaging information on Mrs. Clinton and the DNC. Mueller's investigating them. Now, instead of them folding and giving information, you see the tactic? Hard pressure, threats of bankruptcy, threats of prison time. You guys better talk to us about collusion. Nobody's doing it because there's no collusion. Instead of Corsi and Stone folding, just like Manafort and Papadopoulos refused to fold, right? What happened? Corsi went on TV, and so did Roger Stone, and said, no, we're going to fight this. Matter of fact, Corsi's lawyer is filing a complaint with the Department of Justice about Mueller. Joe, do you have the Corsi thing?
Yeah, man, I got it.
This is Jerome Corsi in an interview explaining what he thinks is going on with Bob Mueller.
These are not legitimate investigatorial techniques. Donald Trump's right to call this a witch hunt. I've experienced it firsthand for 40 hours, and I'm angry about it. And I'm going to file a criminal complaint against the Department of Justice and Mueller. I'm going to send it to Whitaker. My lawyers are preparing it right now. Unfortunately, I have to file it with the Department of Justice, who are, and I'm going to charge today that Mueller and the Department of Justice are political criminals.
Do you believe that Robert Mueller and his team are coercing witnesses to provide false testimony by using these tactics of imprisonment, bankrupting them in legal fees? Do you believe their arms are being twisted to provide false and misleading testimony on behalf of Mueller and his team with these tactics?
100% yes, and I've experienced it personally, and that's why I'm angry.
You get it? Does that explain it? Here's what's going on. They are threatening bankrupting legal fees and continued United States government special counsel litigation against American citizens innocent of any collusion who have nothing to do with this. Folks, their entire case is crap. Their allegations that Corsi and Stone have somehow colluded with Julian Assange and WikiLeaks to release the emails are being vigorously denied by both of them, who claim repeatedly they have had no contact with Assange about these emails. I don't know if they did or if they didn't. I'm just telling you, if the case was open and shut, Joe, you already would have seen criminal charges based on conspiracy and based on Russian collusion. You haven't seen that. Nobody has been charged with that. Now, the pressure tactics, they're getting desperate. This Cohen move today, getting back to this, is clear as day. A couple of things about this that you should take away from this. When did this surprise appearance happen? Where did it happen? When first. So I told you it was after a bunch of other desperate narratives fell apart. Get Manafort to fold. Manafort's telling us he's not going to cooperate. Okay, let's move on. Let's go to Papadopoulos. Papadopoulos isn't going to, he's going to start talking. He's not cooperating either. All right, let's get Corsi to cooperate. Corsi's not only not cooperating, he's on Fox News and other cable outlets and other news outlets telling Mueller to go pound sand. Wow, we're in trouble. All right, let's go back to Michael Cohen. Michael Cohen is Trump's lawyer, Trump's former lawyer. Let's go back and put the squeeze on Michael Cohen.
Think about it. If anybody was going to snap, it'd be that guy.
That's probably what they think. Now, they have a real problem with Cohen. What's the problem the Mueller team has with Cohen, Joe? I'm going to get to the when and the why and stuff in a minute, but here's the issue the Mueller team has with Cohen. Before they can use Cohen as a witness against the Trump team in their phantom collusion. From ABC News. In a public statement released in September of 2017, in advance of his closed session on Capitol Hill, Cohen said, quote, "He had nothing to do with any Russian involvement in our electoral process." And he said, quote, "I never saw anything, not a hint of anything, that demonstrated President Trump's involvement in Russian interference in our election or any form of collusion." He also said about the dossier, which the whole case was based on, that the dossier was, quote, "riddled with total falsehoods and intentionally salacious allegations." Ladies and gentlemen, this is your star witness. Liberals again. Get out of your cocoon, you foaming at the mouth lunatics. This is your star witness now? Manafort was your star witness on Monday. He met with Assange. That story's been widely refuted now by Assange, Manafort, and everyone else. Papadopoulos was your star witness. He now gave you the middle finger. Corsi was going to be your witness. Corsi now is on the news filing charges against Mueller. And now what are they back to? Cohen, the star witness, who is on the record under oath saying repeatedly there's no evidence that this didn't happen and that this dossier is total garbage. This is the best you can do?
Yeah, I remember
Yes,
Cohen when
you
he
do,
did
because
that.
we
I
talked about
I remember
it.
that.
Because
yeah.
we were 6 months ahead of the news cycle warning everyone that this was going to happen. Now does it make sense why they had to get Cohen into the court today to get Cohen to plead guilty to making false statements? Now, you don't have to be, F. Lee Bailey to figure out what's going on. You don't have to be Matlock to figure out what's going on here. The Mueller investigation is dead in the water. They have no evidence of collusion. They have nothing but process crimes, fibs, taxi cab confessions from Cohen. They have nothing. As each witness they thought was going to be their golden ticket has collapsed, they are moving on, and they now apparently in a desperation mode rush Cohen into court. Why is what court he went to significant? Joe, this was a plea deal. He went out and pled guilty today as he took this new plea deal. Cohen, this is important, not to the Southern District charges. This was the special counsel charges. Okay, but it may be a little confusing, but it's important. Mueller's edict from the beginning was to investigate charges related to Russian collusion. Anything not related to the collusion scheme had to be farmed out of the special counsel's office, right back into the standard federal justice system, right? The prior charges they had on Cohen, which he pled to before, were pled to in the Southern District, not under the jurisdiction of the special counsel, meaning that Cohen's charges to the tax stuff and the taxi cab medallion stuff and all this other garbage, that it may have been criminal, as they're alleging, but had nothing at all to do with Trump or collusion. Why do we know that? Because the special counsel referred it out. The special counsel handles collusion. If it's not collusion, they send it back into the federal system, which is what they did with Cohen. The fact that he took a plea today to charges levied by the special counsel's office is significant because it says again that Mueller is bringing them back into the collusion side, despite the fact that Cohen's on the record saying I have nothing to do with the collusion side. This is so bad. I cannot believe how many normally rational, sane people are being suckered by this. You farmed the case out to Southern District months ago because you basically said this had nothing to do with collusion. And now, after all of your other witnesses collapsed, Manafort, Corsi, Papadopoulos, everyone else has collapsed. Mike Flynn, none of these people are cooperating with you because there's nothing to cooperate on. Now, all of a sudden, hurry, rush, let's get him back into court on our stuff. And let's get him to plead guilty to what, Joe? False statements. Why? Because they have to, this is where they're going to be in deep trouble. They have to establish that the storyline he stuck to before, there was no collusion. I just read you the quotes. Cohen, I'm talking about. There's no collusion and the dossier's crap and it's unverified nonsense. They have to establish now that was a lie. Why? Obviously, because if Cohen said before there's no collusion and the dossier's garbage, and that's what Mueller's case is based on, they've got to get Cohen to say, oh, I was lying about that. Joe, what's the problem with that? Let me ask you a simple question. You're a lawyer, right, Joe?
Yes,
I am. Do you want your star witness on the stand who's already admitted in court to being a known liar? You're not a lawyer, correct? Okay.
No, well, I was a lawyer.
I played one on TV today.
I'm not a lawyer
Give us
now.
your best legal advice. Do you want your star witness on the stand telling the defense in a cross-examination, yes, I'm a known liar. I've lied repeatedly about Donald Trump in the past. Just a question for you.
No, I don't, Dan. No, I don't want him
Of course
there.
you don't. And he's not a lawyer, Joe. Of course you don't.
No,
you want your guy on the stand to have a reputation for credibility and honesty. You don't want your star witness in the case to be up on the stand saying, yes, when I said there was no collusion in the past and I said the dossier was garbage, I was actually lying. Let me circle back now to the beginning where I started. What was the lead of the story? What's the headline for the Dan Bongino show today? To all my folks out there who write for me and stuff. Mueller is desperate. Desperate. Who the heck puts on the stand or uses as their main witness a guy who has debunked spoke out against and testified under oath against your entire purpose for being collusion. Mueller's only purpose for existing is Russian collusion. Everything else has to be farmed out. They bring a guy back in now as their star witness who has already said the collusion thing is a hoax and the dossier is garbage. What does that tell you if you are a normal, sane, non-TDS infected individual?
Man the lifeboats! Man the lifeboats!
Yes, the guy's got nothing. He has zero. He has nothing. He has no witnesses. He has no evidence, and he's relying exclusively on the word now of Trump's former attorney who has already lied and pled guilty to lying under oath. Folks, please, I'm begging you to save yourselves the drama and the hysteria from your friends. Please spread this show around today. I just tell your liberal friends and the TDS Trump derangement syndrome infected brains of your anti-Trump, never Trump liberal friends that they are reading this thing again for the umpteenth thousandth time the wrong way. We have heard over and over, this is it. This is the end. Impeachment. It's over. It's over. It's over. Every single time they fall on their face. The takeaway is this. He has to be desperate. How do we know it? Because his star witness is a guy who's already lied under oath about the whole essence for the case, collusion in the dossier. He's already lied about it. This is the best you've got? This is the best you've got. Pathetic how many people are falling into this trap. So stupid. I get frustrated dealing with the stupidity out there. I've been sending out like social media stuff and Twitter stuff all day, just hammering these liberal goofballs who fall into this trap every time. I don't even want to turn off Fox right now because to see the salivating like it's 28 days later, the zombies from 28 days later. You realize you look like idiots. You always fall on your face every time. This guy is completely not credible. All right. Today's show also brought to you by our buddies at We the People Holsters. This is a really great company. People send me photos of this stuff all the time. They're the best holsters out there. They are beautifully designed. You can adjust the cant, you can adjust the ride. They are comfortable. You know, I had an in the pants holster for a long time, but I bought one out of like the cheap buff stores, like $10 or something like that. And it was made of that really uncomfortable fabric. It wasn't adjustable. And, Preston, you're us falling into their traps and their media narratives. Now, I know a lot of people who listen to the show I'm going to probably get a lot of feedback on this, and it's okay. Some may be positive, some may be negative, but I'm not here to avoid controversial issues. There's a growing conversation out there, pro and con, about the merits of pardoning Paul Manafort. Now, I don't know Paul Manafort. I've never met Paul Manafort. I've read some of the, and he's pled guilty. So let's be clear on that there are obviously some crimes here he believes he committed. He pled guilty. I believe, and I think many people who've studied the case. I mean, we literally wrote a book. By the way, thanks to everyone who bought the book. It's down to number 30 on Amazon right now, my book, Spygate. So thank you. You guys are awesome, and ladies out there. Go pick it up if you want to read the real details of this, Manafort and everything. So here's the thing with Manafort. Whatever crimes he committed, I believe, Joe, the investigation happened as a result of him joining the Trump team. In other words, whether the crimes happened or not, the investigation happened because of his political affiliation. And I believe, as an American citizen and as an activist in the conservative community and a believer in big R rights in our Constitution, that the overall interests of our justice system supersede the microcosmic interests of them attacking Paul Manafort. What am I saying here in unnecessarily long terms? Manafort has to be pardoned. He has to be pardoned. I'm sorry, folks. I don't know him. Some of the stuff in there sounds a little strange. Not my typical way of doing business. I would not lobby for the people he did. I'm simply suggesting to you that regardless of the character flaws of Paul Manafort, to save our justice system, we have to absolutely disincentivize and fight back against politically based prosecutors. That makes sense, Joe?
Yeah.
They are not. It's like, whatever. Joe jaywalked a few years ago, and he admits to it. He probably did. Is that a crime? Yeah, it is. You get it, but it's against the law. You're not supposed to jaywalk. But if someone came after Joe, a Democrat prosecutor, because he was a producer of the Dan Bongino show, yes, you can make the case as a liberal. Well, he broke the law. I'm making the case to you, this is not the way the law is supposed to function. We're supposed to investigate crimes, not people. You were targeting Joe because of his politics. You weren't targeting jaywalking because it was Joe. There's a big difference. They targeted Paul Manafort not because of his FARA violations and the tax stuff he pled guilty to. They targeted Paul Manafort because of his association with Donald Trump. And that has to be vigorously counteracted. Folks, the media and the Democrat hacks are now fighting back in a pre-narrative. This is what they do. They set up a pre-narrative in advance. They warn you what they're going to say if you pay attention. They're now going to claim if Trump pardons Manafort that it's obstruction of justice. Listen, I am giving the administration my best advice here for what it's worth. Do it now. Pardon this guy now. Something has to be done to rein in this out of control. They should have fired Manafort a long time ago. Mueller a long time ago. He is out of control. The guy has no morals or ethics. I'm going to cover a couple things about the Mueller probe you may not know in a second here. He is entirely, completely out of control. This is not justice. This is third world tyrannical police state nonsense that's going on. And listen to me. Everybody knows it. But the Democrats are so blinded by their hatred for Trump that they support Bob Mueller. That's why he's the most powerful man in America. He lives entirely outside of the justice system, the Constitution. He has no control over himself, his emotions, his attack for Donald Trump, his morals and ethics have gone out the window. He should have been fired a year ago. A year ago. He deserves to be fired now. But it's the time right now to fight back against these intimidating media tactics. In other words, what they're doing, Joe, to scare Trump off from pardoning Manafort. They're saying now, let me float this one out there. They're sitting in newsrooms going, what should we say about this? Let's put out a narrative and get some legal analysts on. Say, this could be impeachment for obstruction of justice. How? The President of the United States executing his constitutional authority to pardon people he believes were victims of an overreach in the justice system? To the legal analysts out there who are really dopey and some of you are just downright stupid, I'm sorry. You realize that's in the Constitution, that the president has the power to do that, right? You understand that. Now, you may respond back, well, the Congress has the power to levy impeachment charges and the trial in the Senate. Fine. You go knock yourselves out on that. You have fun. But I'm telling you, I think it's worth the chance, folks. Do it now. Do it over the Christmas holiday. Get rid of this kid. Mueller has completely stepped out of line. Now, it's not going to absolve Manafort of legal liability, Joe.
All right. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Because new charges could be filed, number one. And secondly, charges can be filed at the state level. I know you know this, but the President of the United States cannot pardon people for state charges, only federal charges. So Manafort's not in the clear. But it will send a message to the media and everyone else that we will not be intimidated by your tactics. We will not. My speech now up at I did down in Palm Beach this week has gone totally viral. It's closing in on 1 million, well over 1 million. It's up at the show notes saying, listen, when you see the scandal that happened that Mueller's covering up and you hear about it, it's in the show notes again today. I put it at the top. You will be devastated at the scandal we're looking at here. Pardon Manafort now. Pardon him now. We have got to take a stand. Listen to me and listen clear, folks. This Mueller, ethically and morally, they live in a vacuum. They will not stop. Something has to give. Donald Trump has power too. And that power is to pardon people. And that power is to fire Mueller and these investigators. It is time to take a stand. This will never, ever stop. Couple things about Mueller I need to remind you of. I've been remiss the past few weeks. I covered this a few months ago, but there have been some more details. And based on the emails I've been getting about my speech that a lot of people seem to have enjoyed, some of them said, Dan, I listened to your show forever, and I guess I was forced to sum it up in 20 minutes. Mm-hmm. I'm serious, Joe. I'm getting all these emails. So the people listen to the speech, and they said, I never heard it like that. I guess because the show were in such detail sometimes that the big lead gets lost. So read it, and it'll make sense. But I haven't covered the Mueller Plan C, as I refer to. Plan A was unmasking, spying on the Trump team. That fell apart because of Mike Rogers. Plan B was the use of the FISA courts to spy on the Trump team. When Trump won the election, they had to implement Plan C, and that's what I talk about in the speech, which is what? Clean up on aisle 4, I call it. Bring in Bob Mueller to make all that stuff go away. Yeah. Who does Bob Mueller bring in to make all of the spying stuff and all this crap they pulled on the Trump team go away? I haven't covered this in a while. Let's cover some of the names, Joe. Yeah, here's one of his main lawyers and prosecutors in the case on the special counsel who is actively working to prosecute Trump. A guy by the name of Aaron Zebley, who was Mueller's old chief of staff. Okay, what's so funny and suspicious about Aaron Zebley? Aaron Zebley, folks. Yes, represented who? Justin Cooper. Who's Justin Cooper? Justin Cooper. Yes, a special prosecutor on Mueller's team was the lawyer for Justin Cooper, the guy in the Clinton email case who is alleged to have destroyed BlackBerries and assisted in setting up of the illegal server. What? Come again? Now does it make sense how Mueller was brought in for one reason? And I have an old Lee Smith story at Tablet Mag from March in the show notes today. I want you to read it. It talks about this. How Mueller's sole purpose is to cover Clinton malfeasance up by keeping the criminal attention on Donald Trump at all times. All times, even when there's no criminality. That's why they're panicking now with this Cohen story. They've got nothing. Gabish? So who do they bring in? People who are intimately familiar with the Clinton saga who can keep the attention away from Clinton and on Donald Trump. Lawyer number one, Aaron Zebley, who represented the guy alleged to have destroyed the BlackBerries in the Clinton case. Wow. What of all the lawyers in the country, folks, Bob Mueller picks the lawyer who represented the Clinton guy involved in this, according to multiple reports. And you don't find that remotely suspicious. Joe, just a question. How many lawyers, guesstimate, I mean, you think there are hundreds of lawyers, thousands of lawyers, or more than hundreds of thousands of lawyers in the country?
Dan, there's got to be more than hundreds of thousands of lawyers in this country.
Yes. That is a fascinating demographic statistical analysis by you, conducted in just seconds by Joe Armacost. Right. There may be millions in the world. I have no idea. Of all, I don't know the number of lawyers. I'm just telling you, of all the lawyers in the country, Bob Mueller picks the guy, did you know this? Who represented the Clinton team's guy who's alleged to have destroyed the BlackBerries. You don't find that remotely suspicious, folks. Liberals are like, nah, no big deal. It's because you're idiots. That's why you say that. If it was a Democrat president being targeted by a Republican special counsel and the roles were reversed, you would be freaking out. But it's because you have no principles. That's why. Who's Mueller's other attorney on the team? Oh, Jeannie Rhee, big donor to Democrat causes. So what? She donated to causes. What's the big deal? Oh, no, I'm not there. I just said that. It's just kind of a side note. Jeannie Rhee represented someone back in 2015. Matter of fact, she represented an organization in a case being filed against him. What's that organization, Joe? The initials are CF, and it rhymes with Hinton Foundation. What do you think it is?
That would be Clinton Foundation.
Yes!
Hey.
Armacost hits it. This guy's a darn genius. It's amazing. Oh. Jeannie Rhee, the lawyer on the special counsel investigating Donald Trump, was a lawyer for the Clinton Foundation. Again, of all the lawyers in the country, you picked the guy who's involved with the guy who's alleged to have destroyed the BlackBerries, and you picked the woman who was the actual lawyer for the Clinton Foundation.
How about that?
How about that? How about that? How about that? Crazy how that happened. And liberals think this is perfectly fine. Yeah. Folks, you know, last night I was thinking about how to talk about this. I had a good night last night. I'll leave it at that. Joe. Because I got to sleep a little late. But I was thinking about afterwards how to talk about this. How to talk about this story. And I said sometimes, I thought this is it. Folks, sometimes stupid is just stupid. I can't think of any other way to say this. In other words, there are people who are looking at this and they're like triple, quadruple, reverse psychologically analyzing it going, well, no, maybe this. Maybe Mueller is really going after the Clinton Foundation. So to go after the Clinton Foundation for the Russian collusion we think happened, which I write about in my book, that's a whole other topic. He appointed people connected to the Clinton space so that the convictions against the Clintons would be more credible. Folks, I'm not kidding. There are people who believe that. Joe, did that make sense? Even though it doesn't make sense, does the logic... The illogic of it makes sense.
What the hell is going on there?
No, I'm telling you that I'm not. Listen, I get everybody has theories. It's fine. Right. But there are people out there who have hotwash this thing to death, who are thinking illogically because they are desperate to believe that Mueller is acting in a morally and ethically upstanding way and he's a good guy. He is not a good guy. Sometimes what is, Joe, just is.
Right.
Mueller appointed Clinton lawyers because Mueller can't stand Donald Trump and he wanted to make sure Clinton was protected while Trump was prosecuted. It's as simple as that. Why are you reading into this anything different? What evidence do you have of that? I'm telling you, there are people out there who still believe this. They believe, no. He hired Clinton-related attorneys because he's going after Clinton, and therefore the Clintons will have no way to say it was politically based because their own attorneys went after him. Oh, my gosh. You believe? What evidence do you have that that is true? You're just making that up.
Hey, Mom! The meatloaf!
She doesn't have the meatloaf. There's no meatloaf, Will. There's none. There's no meatloaf. What is. Sometimes stupid people who do really dumb stuff do stupid things. And it's just stupid. And the appointing of Clinton-based lawyers to attack Donald Trump after the Clintons and the Obama team spied on Donald Trump is what it is. It's a political effort to hide the Clinton malfeasance to attack Donald Trump. Why else would you hire these people? Stop reading into this. It's annoying. I'm just being honest. I read this stuff all day with no evidence whatsoever. People say that. Oh, Mueller's a good guy. He is not a good guy. Stop. Stop saying that. It is a stupid theory, and it's annoying. Who else did he hire? Andrew Weissman, who's his lead investigator.
Right.
Andrew Weissman, who is on emails congratulating Deputy Attorney General at the time, Sally Yates, for defying the Trump travel ban order. He's like, I admire you, Sally. You're the best. You're the greatest. This guy, Weissman, showed up at Hillary Clinton's victory party. Wasn't so much a victory party, but you get the point. Again, there are people, no, he hired Andy Weissman because it'll look better when they prosecute the Clintons. Oh my gosh, really? Can you be this dumb? That is not what's happening. He hired Weissman because Weissman is going to go after Trump because he hates Donald Trump. Who does Weissman also know? So I have a note here. Bob Mueller knows everyone, and he picked Trump's political enemies for his team. That's the two takeaways. The picks, the legal picks on the special counsel were Trump's political enemies. Pure and simple, to go after Trump. But secondly, Mueller's the best person to sweep the Spygate thing under the rug precisely because he knows all the players and has personal relationships with them, and Mueller doesn't want to be taken down either. Who better to protect the reputation of the Department of Justice or the FBI than a swampy insider like Mueller who's been there? I'm tired of this coddling of Mueller. He has shown no inclination to act morally or ethically in this case at all. I thank him for his service in this country in the United States military, and I mean that. But that does not give you a free get-out-of-jail card for free for the rest of your life for upending and destroying the entire justice system. I am sorry about that, buddy, but you do not get a pass. Mueller knows everyone. Why would he appoint Weissman as his lead prosecutor? Well, I told you the reason number two, because Weissman can't stand Trump and they want to go after Trump. They don't have collusion, as evidenced by their use of Cohen, the worst witness in the world in this case. Weissman knows everybody. Weissman was one of the lead lawyers on the Enron case. The Enron debacle, where they prosecuted a bunch of people and but legally the case became a disaster later on. Convictions were overturned. It was a total nightmare for the Justice Department. Who screwed that up? Andy Weissman. Andy Weissman, who was the FBI director at the time Andrew Weissman was working on that case. Oh, Bob Mueller. Ladies and gentlemen, Mueller knows everybody. Listen, it gets worse. Who was one of the other prosecutors? It all goes back to the Enron case. They all know each other. Who was one of the other prosecutors on the Enron case working with Andy Weissman while Bob Mueller was the FBI director and they were screwing up the Enron case? Catherine Rumler, Obama's fixer, the fixer, Obama's White House counsel during all of this. Literally, Catherine Rumler was Obama's lawyer in the White House while this whole Spygate scandal was going on. They're spying on the Trump team. Obama's former lawyer worked with Weissman on the Enron case. Ladies and gentlemen, they know each other. They're all connected. You may say, okay, so what? So Rumler worked with Weissman and became Obama's White House lawyer while all this Spygate stuff was going on that they're trying to sweep away. Who's the attorney for one of Rumler's cooperating witnesses in the case? A guy by the name of George Nader, who's been providing Joe evidence for this collusion fake narrative. Who's the lawyer for that cooperating witness? Catherine Rumler. Isn't that convenient? Obama's fixer, back again, representing a client cooperating with Mueller on these fake collusion charges. Don't worry, libs. It's all just a coincidence. Go back under your blankies with your s'mores and your internet pornography or whatever you do in your basement, you filthy slobs. You do that. Just blind yourselves to reality. Who else was on that Enron prosecution team with Andy Weissman? Lisa Monaco. Who's Lisa Monaco? Well, she was Bob Mueller's old chief of staff. Who else was Lisa Monaco? What other role? What other shoes did she wear? Lisa Monaco was Obama's Homeland Security and Counterterrorism advisor inside the White House while this spying thing was going on. She knows Weissman. She knows Rumler. She clearly knows Obama. She was one of his closest advisors while this entire debacle was going on. Finally, who was one of the last guys to sign off in the Department of Justice on verifying the dossier that was not verified? In other words, this is true, even though it wasn't true. John Carlin. Who was that? He was the Department of Justice National Security Division head. Who else was John Carlin? He was Bob Mueller's old chief of staff. So let me get this straight. 3 Bob Mueller chiefs of staff are now either involved in this case, working to prosecute Trump, or were working with Obama when it happened. None of this is suspicious to you? So John Carlin, Bob Mueller's chief of staff at one point, was what the guy who signed off on the dossier in the Department of Justice. Oh, we'll make that go away, Johnny boy. Don't worry about that. Lisa Monaco, Bob Mueller's other chief of staff, was Obama's Homeland Security and Counterterrorism advisor inside the White House when they were engaged in the spying operation. And Bob Mueller's buddy, Andy Weissman, worked with Catherine Rumler while Mueller worked with him at the FBI, Obama's White House counsel. Rumler's now representing a cooperator in this case. No, nothing to see here, folks. Don't you worry at all. Just whistle Dixie right past the graveyard. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So stupid. These people are just suckers, man. All right, one final read, and I want to. Please don't go anywhere because this final story is really important. Something else I think they're doing to cover their tracks that Lee Smith brings up in the piece. That's really going to bake your bagels. I don't know any other way to say it. Hey, if you're like me, the list of books you want to read or those people suggesting books to read is never ending and it's always expanding. Listen, you just don't have the time to read them all. Thousands of the best. But take some solace in this. There is the possibility that the players in this will go down. And the reason is there's a paper trail. I alluded to it before. There is a verification process to verify paperwork that makes it into the FISA court. The dossier was part of that paperwork. I just discussed it before when I told you about John Carlin. It's called the Woods procedure. In other words, there's a paper trail. People said the dossier was as simple as this. People said the dossier was true at the FBI, Joe, and in the DOJ, and it wasn't. Mm-hmm. They signed the document saying it was true. They'd verified it, right? They didn't. Mm-hmm. There's that paper trail. There's the FISA court. Someone had to file official paperwork with the FISA court where they swore this information is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and it wasn't. It was fake. There's also, and this is important, there is also a money trail of people who were paid to provide information to the FBI. Oh, who got paid? Halper? Who got paid? Did spies get paid? How many spies did get paid? How much did they get paid? What kind of information did they trade in advance? This is really important stuff, folks. There is a paper trail. Having said that, though, there is also a disappearing paper trail that is, I mentioned a few months ago, but this is important because it may provide evidence of motive. Here's what I mean. Lee Smith's Tablet Mag piece, which is an older piece, but it's up in the show notes because it's worth your time. He says, and now intelligence and data experts believe that the CIA cloud, Joe, is how the Obama administration could have minimized its trail after unmasking U.S. persons. So again, if you listen to the speech, the original plan by the Obama team, the spy on the Trump team, was to basically just wiretap them through unmasking. Simple as that. Basically listen to them and unmask their identities, right?
Right.
But Joe, the volume of requests was historic. They had put in so many unmasking requests that people got suspicious. Remember the Susan Rice unmasking, Samantha Power? She's saying, now Samantha Power, the Obama UN ambassador, said, I didn't ask for all these. I didn't ask for all these unmaskings. Remember that, folks? They were all running away from it. Why? Because they know there's a paper trail of these unmasking requests that makes it look like the Obama administration had an unusual interest in players involved with the Trump team and their political opponents. Not just the Trump team, by the way. There may be others. Now, in order to minimize its footprint, remember the unmasking requests are on record. We have those, but we don't have exactly all the data. Here's how they did it. This Intel official says this is how they minimized their paper trail. He says the NSA database, with its large and ongoing collection of electronic communications, basically emails and stuff, can be accessed through the NSA's cloud, said a former senior Intel official. The NSA, Joe, can audit it and find out if their analysts are violating rules. In other words, folks, tapping into the NSA database against U.S. procedures and policies. In other words, spying on U.S. citizens. They can audit that. Mm-hmm. But it gets better. The NSA does not audit the CIA's cloud, folks, which is audited by the CIA's IT people and Amazon Web Services. What? Amazon Web Services employees who are given security clearances. Joe's got this look like his head stirs like, yeah, really? Yeah, really.
Oh.
There are the Intel official goes on. There are people in the CIA and the Office of Director of National Intelligence and the National Security Council who can move information from the NSA cloud, Joe, into the CIA cloud. That seems the likeliest scenario to explain how Obama officials first unmasked U.S. persons and then shared the information without leaving a trail that could be audited independently or immediately at every step. Folks, in other words, there is a keystroke trail at the NSA of exactly what they were looking for in that database of emails. Was the Obama administration and their insiders, corrupted insiders, searching the NSA database for political information? And were they having people move that information into the CIA's cloud so that they could control it and not leave a paper trail? Now, there must be a paper trail of what was moved. Maybe not what was done after it was moved, but there has to be some form of a digital footprint about the information that was taken out of the NSA cloud into the CIA cloud, where it was only going to be audited inside and they could control it. Now, who controlled the CIA at the time, Joe? Johnny Boombots, John Brennan. Johnny Brennan. This is why I'm telling you, folks, I do think the three-letter players are going to go down. I think eventually Brennan is going to be in a world of trouble. I think Comey and McCabe's already in a world of trouble. He's already been subjected to a grand jury. So that we already know. I think Strzok is in a world of trouble. I think Page is in a world of trouble. I think Jim Clapper, likewise. I think Sally Yates. I just am not sure the political will is there, not with the Trump team, but with the Rhino Republicans to pressure enough people to look back at the Hillary team and her role in all of this. Folks, moving information into the CIA cloud so they can mess with it all they want. What does John Brennan know about that? I may tweet him today and ask him. I'm going to take a screenshot of this piece and ask John Brennan what he knows about the information moved from the NSA cloud to the CIA cloud and ask him if there's some kind of audit of that, if we can check that out. What do you think, folks? I think we should check that out, right?
Yeah.
All right, listen, thanks again for tuning in. I don't mean to reiterate what happened. It was really important. Everybody just, please, relax with the Cohen stuff. The media is going to lose their minds like they always do. In a couple of days, it's going to come out.
All right, that's our first Dan Bongino, episode 861. And next, 862. Because I fucked up and fell asleep yesterday.
Get ready to hear the truth about America on a show that's not immune to the facts with your host, Dan Bongino.
All right, welcome to the Dan Bongino Show. Producer Joe, how are you today?
Well, you know what day it is. It's Friday.
Yep. We love
Everybody
Friday. A weekend off. Spend some time with La Familia. We like that. Folks, this is an important show today because there was some breaking news yesterday that is making its way around the Twitter sphere, Facebook sphere, and the internet about a raid on a whistleblower in the Clinton Foundation case, and a lot of people are celebrating. Joe, probably you as well. A lot of people are like, hey, this is great.
Yeah.
Finally, we're getting to the bottom of the Clinton Foundation. Folks, listen to me. I'm not so sure that this is good news. Yeah. No, don't go anywhere. I will explain. This may be, I hate to be the bad. Listen, I'm not looking on a Friday to be Debbie or Danny Downer. I'm just telling you, this may not be these are not the droids you're looking for, if you know what I mean. All right, let's get to it. Today's show brought to you by one of my all-time favorite sponsors in the history of Dan Bongino Show sponsorships, Man Crates. Man Crates. As a guy, it's hard to buy us gifts. My wife and I, where else are you going to get that? Yesterday, I get a ton of emails. Hey, this is great. Let me just read to you the headline first. This is from an exclusive story at the Daily Caller by Richard Pollack. It is in the show notes today. Please, please, please read it. Go sign up for my email list. I will send these stories to you every day. You don't have to do the work of finding. Here's the takeaways from the story. The FBI has raided the home of a whistleblower who was in possession of documents regarding the Clinton Foundation and Uranium One, according to the whistleblower's lawyer, Michael Caceres. The whistleblower, Dennis Nathan Kane, had turned the documents over to the Department of Justice's Inspector General and both the House and Senate Intel committees. Oh, isn't that special? According to the lawyer. The FBI rummaged through Kane's home for 6 hours, even after the whistleblower handed over the documents, according to his lawyer. I had people emailing me all day. Look, finally, we're getting to the bottom of the Clinton Foundation. Look, they're going after him. Folks, again, I don't think this is the case. Here's what I think is going on. First, let's establish some facts here. The whistleblower who was turned over, he had already, folks, this guy the FBI raided the home of. Think about what I'm about to tell you. Process this. The whistleblower had already turned over these sensitive documents, which allegedly have some damning material about the Clinton Foundation and Uranium One. The whistleblower had already turned these documents over to the Inspector General. The government already has them. Why would the FBI go and raid the home of a whistleblower under federal whistleblower protection guidelines? Why would they do that if they already had the documents? You thinking?
Yeah, I'm thinking.
Joe, I think this is an effort, again, to make this all go away. Now,
and that's where I was headed.
A lot of you were very upset at my speech, the viral speech I've been putting up on my show notes that I gave in Palm Beach about the Spygate case, where I put it together and I summed it up in 20 minutes. A lot of you were upset at the end when Sebastian Gorka, who was at the speech, asked me a question about who I felt was going to go down on this and who was going to be prosecuted. And I said, I thought the political players were going to skate. I'm hoping, I am desperate to hope, I'm praying I'm wrong. But you ask me for my opinion, I'm going to give it to you. I'm not telling you I'm not. What do you think the purpose of my show is? I'm fighting this every day to get the Hillary Clinton team, Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and his team accountable. But I have zero faith that anyone has cojones left in Washington, D.C. And I think what happened yesterday is further evidence that what I told you was true. The only purpose, ladies and gentlemen, let's put the lead out there now, for an FBI raid on a whistleblower's house where the documents are already in possession is because the documents are so devastating that they want to make sure that they can clean up the mess and get this all under FBI custody immediately.
Yeah.
Now, I'll say this. The conservative treehouse guys have some stories up on their website today that are really good. And I want to be careful with this. And they admit that they're speculating. They hope they're wrong too. But I'm starting to lean with their theory and other theories from people I've been chatting with out there. One specifically on an email communique here. that this is an effort by FBI and DOJ people to desperately make the Clinton corruption go away. Folks, listen to me. Why would I say that, right? Why would I go and give a speech in front of a group of conservatives, right? A speech, and at the end, when asked an honest question, give an answer that nobody wanted to hear. Why? Everybody wants applause when they give it. That's what you do. Why would I give an answer when Sebastian asked me, hey, do you think Hillary Clinton's going to go down? I said, no, I don't. I think they're going to sweep this all under the rug, and that's the purpose of the Mueller probe. Why would I give that answer if I don't believe it to be true? It'd be silly. Why upset your crowd? Joe, listen, you've been in the public space for a long time in a radio station.
Yeah.
You don't want to talk about content that upsets your audience.
Well,
but you want to be honest.
Yeah, you got to be honest. Yeah.
And folks, us ignoring what's going on right now under the hope that they eventually get prosecuted one day and pretending this stuff isn't real is nonsense.
That's your credibility, man. You got to say what has to be said.
Now, Joe, do you remember a while ago we did a show? I sometimes get emails about the show. Forgive me, I don't remember the number, but it was a good 6 months ago. I did a show where I was getting some information, let's say, that there was a horse trade process going on.
Yeah, you used those words, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, that the DOJ and the FBI are well aware of their spying efforts on Trump, all the Obama administration malfeasance, Hillary Clinton's malfeasance and the Uranium One approval, the Clinton speeches in Russia for $500,000. The bottom line is the FBI and the DOJ understands the role of heavily connected political players and the DOJ and FBI in this grotesque scandal. In an effort to preserve the integrity, and believe me, I'm saying that with air quotes, folks, the integrity of these institutions, because the people at the top have entirely let down the working men and women there who do a good job. I know a lot of assistant United States attorneys and FBI agents. But in order to protect the integrity of the institution, I had said in the horse trade show that I believe what's happening right now is Trump team efforts to root out the deep state slobs who did this. The deep state scavengers who tried to take down the Trump team. They can't let them all go down at the same time. Folks, please follow me. I know it's upsetting, but follow me for a second.
Yeah, I know why. Go ahead.
You see where I'm going with the show? Yeah. The Department of Justice and FBI cannot have 50 or 60 people a day brought out in handcuffs and political players locked. There would be a popular revolt on the left side. I'm not telling you that's right. Please stop emailing me like, Dan, this is crazy. Why are you? I'm not defending anything. I'm telling you what I'm hearing. If it doesn't interest you, that's fine. I get it. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing and what I believe to be true. There is a horse trade going on somewhere by players on both sides. The Trump anti-swamp effort and the swamp protection team. I'm just telling you what I'm hearing. They give you one of them, we'll give you one of us. This is clearly at some point going on. How do I know this? Read this interesting piece in the show notes today by the New York Post. I'm not just because of this piece. I've been hearing this for 6 months. But people connected who have some contacts are hearing some of the same things I am. There's a piece in the New York Post. Trump's threatening to declassify documents that are going to destroy the Democrats. The piece is up in the Post today. What does that tell you? And my podcast makes sense now in some of the titles. I had a title the other day on the podcast, which Joe produced. What was the title, Joe? President Trump's holding all the cards.
Yeah.
He has the documents. He understands the role of Hillary Clinton, Hillary Clinton's deep state players, of the Obama administration deep state players, and the Department of Justice and the FBI in the biggest political scandal of our time. He knows it. But ladies and gentlemen, the deep state swamp ratters, the swamp rats, they have cards too, and us pretending it's not there out of a sense of faux bravado isn't doing anything. They have cards too. What are their cards? They have the media, and they have the secret weapon. What I've been telling you all along, Bob Mueller. This is Mueller's job, to keep the heat on Donald Trump so he doesn't expose these people. Does this make sense? This is why I spend my time just ripping apart and debunking this nonsense that Bob Mueller's a white hat. He's a good guy. He's not a good guy. Bob Mueller was the FBI director during the Uranium One scheme. He's in there specifically to cover up the DOJ FBI malfeasance to do what? Here's the headline. Preserve the Department of Justice and FBI's reputation at all costs. If we're going to throw people in the tank here, We're going to do them one at a time. That's why I said at the end of this speech, I wasn't making this up, that I thought a lot of three-letter agency people were going to go down. They'll go down one at a time. It'll be dragged out over time, and it will not be a perp walk of 5 or 6 people out of FBI headquarters. I'm not telling you it's nice or cute.
Nah, it sucks.
It sucks is right.
Yeah.
Thank you for not being diplomatic, because we don't have to be diplomatic anymore. This does suck. Joe's right. It plain sucks. But folks, this battle against the deep state that Trump's been waging since the day he got into office was not going to be resolved overnight. What significant battle against entrenched interests who've been doing this, ladies and gentlemen, for literally decades, entrenching themselves in the federal bureaucracy, in the Department of Justice. You think these people were all going to leave overnight? This fight's going to take time. I want you to smile a little bit. It's going to take time. Now, you say smile. You opened up the show saying how this Hillary Clinton, this raid on this whistleblower is not a good thing. It's not. But I sense, like I sensed with the Cohen plea yesterday, that this is a panic move, folks. It's a panic move.
Because you got nothing.
Nothing. Zippo.
You got nothing.
They don't. This is what's going on. All of these things happened at the same time. We won back the Senate. But we didn't win back. Let me be precise. We won more seats in the Senate. We're now up after the Cindy Hyde-Smith win in Mississippi, 53-47 on the Republican side. Follow me. We win the Senate by a bigger margin in the midterms. Trump gives his answers to Bob Mueller. Right after that, you see this flurry of activity. Phony leaks about Paul Manafort and Julian Assange. The Michael Cohen story. The pressure on Jerome Corsi. Corsi goes public. You see the story yesterday about the Clinton Foundation leaks in the raid. You see this flurry of activity just in the last week. Ladies and gentlemen, this all happened this week. At least the stories about it did. What does that tell you? Let me connect the dots. Bob Mueller is not going to charge Donald Trump with anything. He can't indict the president, that's clear. But he is not going to charge in his final report, which I believe may be forthcoming. Bob Mueller is not going to charge the president of the United States in that report with any crimes. What he is going to do is he is going to tell a story. How do I know this now? I know this because of the Michael Cohen plea. Michael Cohen. A couple of things are missing from this plea. In Michael Cohen's plea, he never pleads guilty to any 18 U.S.C. 371 conspiracy charge. In other words, as Andy McCarthy, and I have another Andy McCarthy piece in the show notes today, National Review has said often, and it's important. Folks, I've done this. I've charged people with conspiracy at the federal level as an agent. When you see a conspiracy, a collusion conspiracy to overthrow an election, a conspiracy to overthrow an election like Donald Trump is charged with doing with the Russians. At some point, ladies and gentlemen, when you charge people with that, someone has to be charged with the actual conspiracy, Joe.
Yeah.
You charge either the big dog or an underling. You get them to lay out the conspiracy in a charge and plead guilty to it. Joe, why would you do that? I'm going to explain. I'm going to put you on the spot. From a federal agent's perspective, if Donald Trump is involved in a conspiracy to steal Hillary Clinton's emails, to use them to impact the election, why do you want someone at some point to plead guilty to that? Although, ladies and gentlemen, nobody has. Not Manafort, not Papadopoulos, not Cohen. No one's pled to anything close to that. Why? Because they don't have it. But you get people to plead to the conspiracy to do what, Joe? To send a message to the co-conspirators that we understand the conspiracy. Here's the criminal information. Here's the indictment. Here's what we know. You guys are with an ED at the end. And then what happens? The co-conspirators come forward. All right, I want to plea. Why do they do that, Joe? Think like a federal agent for a minute. If you have a conspiracy and you get some person to admit to all the components of the conspiracy, what happens to the co-conspirators? They realize they're screwed and they all try to beat the other guy to the door to get a better deal. Yes. No, I want to tell. No, I want to tell. No, I want to tell more. because they realize they're screwed, because they're reading the conspiracy. They're reading the guilty plea. They understand there's now a rat in their midst, right? And what do? They're like, oh, man, I'm screwed. I better get my lawyer to plead, too, so I get the deal he got. Ladies and gentlemen, I think this is one of the insights. Again, I'm not trying to sound in any way pretentious or anything. I'm just saying, having done this stuff, this is what you do to pressure people who are involved in a criminal conspiracy to come forward and give you the relevant facts. You get someone to plead guilty to it. The Cohen plea was for false statements. It had nothing to do with conspiracy. This says to me, Mueller has nothing. That's point number one. Mueller's got nothing. Secondly, what does the Senate have to do with this? We had significant gains in the Senate. We're now up to 53. Ladies and gentlemen, the impeachment trial happens where? In the Senate, where they need a 2/3 vote. Meaning they would need significant numbers of Republicans to vote with the Democrats to get the president out of office in an impeachment trial in the Senate. Folks, they don't have anywhere close to that. There is, listen to me, zero chance, unless something major surfaces that Donald Trump robbed a bank or something, there is zero chance, which isn't going to happen. Zero chance the president is going to be removed from office. Now, does the panic moves this week start to make sense? The Democrats were hoping to win some seats in the Senate and take back the majority. So at least they stood a chance in an impeachment trial. They lost seats. The trial is dead. Why charge someone in a crime with a crime, which is essentially what an impeachment trial is? You will never, ever get a conviction for. Remember, once they lose, going back to the well again for impeachment is a dead issue, politically speaking. It's not going to happen. Does the panic make sense now? Put these two stories together. The Clinton raid is not good news. It could be. It could be. I'm sorry. I don't mean to put or insert asterisks in there. I don't like to caveat my own stuff. I'm hearing it's not good news, and I am leaning heavily in that direction. There's a small possibility that it is an effort in the new Whitaker era to go get something done. I don't think so. And the reason I don't think so is, again, they already had the documents. Now, I'm going to get this because there's more angles here. It's not just that. It's not just that they already had the document. Why raid a house you already have the stuff on? It has a lot to do with the Senate Intel Committee. I'm putting that down because I don't want to forget this. But put the stories together now, why these panic moves are all coming out at the same time. We win seats in the Senate. Impeachment is now off the table, at least in the trial. They can still impeach in the House but remember, the trial happens in the Senate. And secondly, Bob Mueller and Democrats and liberals and swamp rats who are probably familiar with what's going on with the Mueller probe are starting to realize right now that they have absolutely nothing. And the Cohen panic move is evidence of it. Cohen pled guilty to lying to FBI agents about when discussions of a real estate deal in Moscow ended. Ladies and gentlemen, why Cohen even lied about that, I have no idea. It's not illegal for an international real estate businessman like Donald Trump to do what, Joe? International real estate. There's nothing illegal, but I don't even know why Cohen lied about it.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. They've got nothing. Now, Andy McCarthy, in his brilliant National Review piece, points out another flaw here. Byron, the Andy McCarthy piece talks about not pleading guilty to the conspiracy. Remember that. Nobody has yet pled guilty to the conspiracy. When you're a federal agent, you need that to happen so that everyone else has sent the signal. We know what happened. Nobody knows what happened because it didn't happen. No one's pled guilty to it. But Byron York has another great piece, and the show notes today are really good. Please read them. Bongino.com or on my email list, please. Byron York has another good piece. What happened to Prague? Prague, you're like, what are you talking about? Ladies and gentlemen, the dossier, which was used by the deep state operators here, the FBI and the Department of Justice, the fake dossier paid for by Hillary Clinton, which had all this salacious, unverified information on Donald Trump, which Jim Comey acknowledged was salacious and unverified. Do you understand the dossier is the basis of this entire operation to take down Trump? Listen to me. If the dossier falls apart, the FBI and DOJ at some point are going to have to acknowledge they spied on the Trump team based on nothing but gossip that's been debunked. Okay? You already know that. That's simple stuff. Jim Comey desperately needed some components of the dossier to be true. Something. Anything, Joe. Why? Because let's go back to how I started the show. Bob Mueller needed at least some component of it to be true. Comey, too. Mueller needs it to be true because he needs to keep the collusion fairy tale alive. Mm-hmm. The collusion fairy tale is summed up in the dossier. He needs some of it, any of it to be true. Why? Let's go back to the beginning of the show where I said, what is Bob Mueller's job? Bob Mueller's job is to make the Clinton-Obama scandalous stuff go away, to preserve the reputation of the Justice Department and the FBI. If Bob Mueller can confirm even a single scintilla of evidence about that dossier that implicates Trump in a conspiracy, even a little bit, what can he say, Joe? Oh, well, at least this part was true. The rest wasn't, but it was an honest mistake.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Why does the panicked Cohen plea now matter? Because as Byron York points out, a key component of the dossier fairy tale about how evil Trump conspired to win the election, Joe, is that he sent his lawyer, Michael Cohen, I addressed this in my speech, by the way, to Prague to cut a deal with tech people to steal Hillary's email in exchange for cash. Now, folks, that would be very serious. If Donald Trump's lawyer during the campaign, Michael Cohen, did that, went to Prague to arrange for a computer theft and payments for stolen information, I got news for you. They'd be in real trouble. What's the problem, Joe? It's not true. It didn't happen. It didn't happen, ladies and gents. It didn't happen. Cohen has vigorously denied this. Now does York's piece make sense? If Michael Cohen is now cooperating with the Mueller team, which we know he is, why in the plea deal isn't an acknowledgement that Michael Cohen went to Prague and engaged in collusion with a tech guy to steal Hillary's emails? Because they didn't do it. That's in the dossier, ladies and gentlemen. The key component of the dossier is Cohen paid for Hillary's emails. He didn't plead guilty to that. Matter of fact, as far as we know, he has vigorously denied this to this day, and not a scintilla of evidence has surfaced to say otherwise. In other words, Bob Mueller now is in desperation time because he realizes the entire dossier is complete crap and cannot be verified. So he needs to shut this guy down, Cohen, because the whole collusion case revolves around Cohen making this deal in Prague where he's never been. Now, again, are you understanding the panic mode this week? Why this? The Manafort Assange story, which is looking like garbage. The Cohen, we get this guy in court. Mueller and everyone around him, after losing the Senate, realizing impeachment isn't on the table, and realizing the dossier is complete garbage, desperately is in cleanup mode now. There is some kind of a horse trade going on. And in order to clean up the mess and damage the people, and do damage to the Trump argument, they've got to somehow make key evidence disappear. Or at least get it under their custody. Now, in a horse trade, right, where Donald Trump and his team trying to clean out the swamp are going to be looking for legal or political accountability, or both, on the side of the Obama and Clinton team who went after him. Joe, do you think documents about Uranium One, Hillary Clinton's role in approving the Uranium One contracts, the sale of our uranium to the Russians, $500,000 paid to the Clinton Foundation through Bill Clinton for a speaking fee paid by a bank involved in the Uranium One sale, you think these could be damaging documents in a horse trade?
Oh, I think so. Dan.
You think so, don't you? So who would want custody of them? The DOJ and FBI, which understands it had a role in making a lot of this stuff go away when they knew it was happening. Because who was the FBI director during the Uranium One thing? Bob Mueller. Bobby M. Bob Mueller. What better guy to bring in as a special counsel to clean up the DOJ and FBI's air quotes reputation by keeping the attention on Trump than a guy whose reputation would be tarnished if he allowed people to tell the truth? Mueller's perfect for this. By the way, who was the United States attorney on the precursor to the Uranium One case, the 10X case? where the FBI informant said that, hey, listen, we're engaged in this uranium sales with people, process uranium sales. And I got to tell you, I've got information here that the Russians are helping the Iranians build a nuclear program, despite the fact that the Iranians are saying they're not trying to build a nuclear program. And they want an Iran deal with us for their nukes. Who was the United States attorney in that case? Oh, Rod Rosenstein. Yeah, the deputy attorney general. Now, I'm not sure if you knew that. I know many of you do, but the liberals, of course, ignore that. They have every incentive, the players at the Justice Department and the FBI now, to bury this. Now, let me read to you further from the Daily Caller piece. Now, let's get back to the raid, but I needed to explain that to you, because if you don't understand that, the rest of the story doesn't make a lot of sense. So the operating, they're taking it out to 30,000 feet. What I'm trying to tell you right now is all this stuff that's happening this week that's being portrayed by the media as devastating for Trump. I'm telling you, I think is devastating for the Mueller team. I think it's panic time. They have to shut down Cohen because Cohen cannot authenticate the dossier. The dossier is the whole case for the FBI and DOJ. If the dossier falls apart, someone's going to have to admit they spied on Donald Trump with no evidence. Mueller knows this. They got to shut Cohen down somehow, anyhow, desperately. Now, Mueller is desperate to tell a story. He's not going to be able to implicate Trump in criminal activity. To keep everybody shut down and to maintain leverage in a horse trade, Mueller needs to write a story. The story is going to be very bad for Trump politically because it's told by Bob Mueller. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't think Trump has any criminal liability in here at all. None. Matter of fact, I think it's going to be bad because it's going to be written by Mueller. Don't take that the wrong way. But do you understand he needs that as leverage in a horse trade because Donald Trump knows about everything I'm telling you. Mueller's role as the FBI director in the Uranium One, Rod Rosenstein's role as the lead prosecutor, Rod Rosenstein's role in signing the FISA warrants. He understands all of this. Mueller needs leverage. Mueller's leverage is the report that's going to be given to Congress for an impeachment proceeding. An impeachment proceeding they thought was likely before the midterms when they thought they could pick up a few seats in the Senate. An impeachment proceeding now in the Senate that looks like a dead end. So now Mueller's only leverage, it's not impeachment anymore, folks. He can't indict the president. Do you understand? Joe, please tell me you get this.
Yeah,
his only leverage, Bob Mueller, is a really awful, horrible report written with all kinds of innuendo and nonsense to make the president look bad, to damage him politically. So what happens, Joe? So he does not get reelected in 2020 because impeachment is now off the table.
That's the idea. Yeah.
And to sweep everything else under the rug. And I think this Clinton raid is an effort by the Bureau to get a hold of all of this damaging information, get it in-house, get custody of it, and make sure this never sees the light of day. I'm going to tell you more about it in a second and why I think that's true. All right, today's show. Thank you. I love having Joe here. I know when a show's going well when he tilts it. Further told the FBI agent that potentially damaging classified information had been properly transmitted to the Senate and House Intel committees as permitted under the Act. His lawyer said. The agent immediately directed his agents to begin a sweep of the suburban home anyway. Process that. A whistleblower who voluntarily turned over damaging information about the Clinton Foundation and the Uranium One deal, which Mueller and Rosenstein are involved in, a whistleblower tells the FBI guy at his house, or woman, it doesn't say who, tells the FBI agent, hey, I'm a whistleblower. I've already given this stuff over, and this stuff is potentially damaging stuff, and they raid his house anyway.
I don't have to tell you we're facing a major threat.
Big time. Frightened and intimidated, Kane, again the informant, promptly handed over the documents, his lawyer told the Daily Caller. Yet even after surrendering the information to the FBI, the agents continued to rummage through the home for 6 hours. This happened in Maryland, Joe, by you. Right. After asking and getting my approval to do so, DOJ IG Michael Horowitz had a member of his staff physically take Mr. Kane's classified document disclosure to the House and Senate Intel committees. The informant's lawyer told the Daily Caller, why does that matter? Why does that matter? So let's walk through this again. Remember the lead. This raid, I do not think is a good thing. It's an effort to hoover up all this stuff and make it go away. The Senate Intel Committee. So what the lawyer for this informant is saying is an informant who has information, an informant who has damaging information about the Clinton Foundation, Uranium One, and the Uranium One deal, which Bob Mueller and Rod Rosenstein were heavily involved in. Rod Rosenstein is the prosecuting attorney. This informant turned over information to the IG The lawyer makes a specific point to say this, who gives it to the Senate Intel Committee. Joe, the Senate Intel Committee. What's going on in the Senate Intel Committee? Oh, the same Senate Intel Committee who had the staffer, James Wolfe, who is alleged in the charging documents to have leaked significant negative information to the media about the FISA warrant and the Trump probe, who's alleged to have lied about it, about sensitive leaks to the media. That's specifically what he was charged with. This is the same committee. The same committee Senator Mark Warner, Democrat, sits on, who, as I told you during this week's shows, is texting with a lobbyist for a Russian connected to Putin about setting up meetings with Christopher Steele, who worked for Hillary Clinton. Listen, process this. This gets complicated, but it's not. It's an effort by people involved in the scheme from day one to target Trump and leak to the press negative dossier information that's not true. It is an effort to make all of this go away. Follow the yellow brick road right to Oz. The FBI, the DOJ, the Inspector General has information already at a whistleblower, negative info on the Clinton Foundation. They raid his house anyway. The lawyer makes a point to say, hey, this information was already turned over to the Senate Intel Committee. Oh, you mean the same committee that has a member actively communicating with a lobbyist who is the conduit between the Russians and Hillary Clinton's opposition researcher, Christopher Steele? You mean that lobbyist? So the lobbyist who clearly knows the main players who produced this dossier on Donald Trump is communicating with a guy on the Senate Intel Committee who's aware of negative information out there about the Clinton Foundation? How do we know? Because the lawyer for the informant says it. Hey, the Senate Intel Committee has this info already. I think the lawyer knows what he's hinting. In other words, the Senate Intel Committee that has a known leaker who's been criminally charged, the Senate Intel Committee that has a known Democrat senator who's communicating with the major players in the dossier scandal, the Senate Intel Committee is also aware, Joe, of leaked information horrendously damaging to Hillary Clinton, Rod Rosenstein, and Mueller, and all of a sudden this guy's house gets raided. Why? Now, the Treehouse guys have an interesting theory. I'm going to put this out as a theory because it's theirs, but it makes some kind of sense. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give you both sides of this first, what's going on. I believe, by the way, again, that this is a cleanup operation, again, to get hold of that information. But I just want to put together some other stuff here as well. There are only two possible scenarios. I am hoping what I told you is wrong, that this is a cover-up. Let me give you the other scenario first. This I've heard from some people as well. I'm not sure I put much credibility in it, though. There's a theory out there that this is Huber, that John Huber, the United States attorney who's been charged with investigating a lot of this Clinton malfeasance, that Huber may be closing in on a bad guy in the Clinton case. I hope that's right. But let me just say that Huber being called to testify December 5th up in front of a congressional committee is not a good sign. So we have two alternate theories here. The raid on the Clinton Foundation informant is either a good thing because they're closing in on the Clintons, Joe, or the theory I've been guiding you down the path the entire time, that this is not a good thing, that this is a raid to make all this go away, to keep information about horse trade players on the sidelines, or at least in their custody. Here's why I think the raid is a good thing theory, that Huber's closing in on the Clinton Foundation, is garbage. Mark Meadows, who is a bulldog, who is a absolutely terrific congressman from North Carolina. I really like Meadows a lot. Meadows and Jim Jordan have been on this case from day one. They are obviously, being members of Congress with clearances, read in on the intimate details of what's going on. The Mueller scam, the FISA scam, this whole thing. Meadows is the one who wants Huber, the United States attorney charged by the Justice Department with investigating this Clinton Foundation Hillary email scandal malfeasance. Meadows, who's on our side, is calling Huber up to the Hill on December 5th. Ladies and gentlemen, why would Meadows do that if Huber was closing in? Think, folks, think for a second. Just think like a federal agent, right? Let's say the United States Attorney, Huber, is really closing in, and this raid is the end game, and all these people are going to go down for what we know was massive government-wide corruption. You think Meadows wouldn't know that? Why would Meadows want to signal to everybody involved in a public hearing on December 5th, hey, the cops are coming? Who does that? Who does that? Listen to me. Meadows is not stupid. There are many members of Congress, some I've met, some are actually pretty dumb. Mark's not one of them. The reason Meadows is calling Huber up there is to put Huber on the hot seat and ask him what the hell is going on. Meadows is on our side. He's a legit white hat. He's a good guy in this. Why is Meadows calling up the U.S. attorney assigned with investigating Hillary Clinton's crap? He's not doing it because Huber's knocking it out of the park. It's clear as day now that he's doing it because he wants to know, what the heck are you doing? It's obvious. It's also obvious based on the lawyer's statements for the informant, who carefully mentions that the information was turned over to the Senate Intel Committee, which we know has been corrupted. We have Warner dealing with the Hillary's Oppo researchers and the dossier dealers on text. We have a staffer over there arrested and being prosecuted for lying about leaking. The Senate Intel Committee has been covering this whole thing up and selectively leaking negative information about Trump. Now, if the Senate Intel Committee has this information about the Hillary Clinton team and the negative information about the Uranium One case, Joe, why hasn't that leaked? No, serious. I'm asking, why do you think the negative information about Hillary hasn't leaked from the Senate? This is not a trick up from the Senate Intel Committee, but the negative information about Trump has.
We don't have the press on our side.
Yes, thank you. Or the Senate Intel Committee.
Right.
Full of Republican swamp rats, too, and rhinos who hate Donald Trump. Yes, you're right, though. The press is a big part of it, too. The press doesn't want to run negative stories like that about. They want to attack Donald Trump. And the rhinos and the Democrats have been an endless source of leaks through this staffer to damage Trump. That's why the lawyer in this Daily Caller piece for the informant on the Clinton case, the whistleblower, is like, hey, wink, wink, nod, nod. The Senate committee already has this stuff. Why raid my client's house again? Because they want it in the FBI's custody, because they're clearly looking to make this stuff go away. Don't be surprised for a second if on December 5th, if Huber shows up for this hearing and some of this testimony makes it out there, that you see Meadows and them ask questions about this. What was that raid about? What were we looking for exactly? Folks, this is devastating stuff. Now, there is one other possibility. So again, I just laid out in the beginning why I think this is a Hoover operation. Get all the information, Hoover it up, make it go away. Mm-hmm. Theory number 2 is, it's actually evidence of them closing in on the Clintons. I doubt that. There's another kind of hybrid theory going on here. The hybrid theory is that this is the FBI versus the IG. The Inspector General, Michael Horowitz, has done a decent job so far. His report on the malfeasance in the Crossfire Hurricane case, on the Clinton email case, was not as slam dunk for the liberals as they thought it was. Not if you actually read the report, which I'm sure none of them did. The other theory floating around out there is that the IG, who Joe, has this negative information about the Clintons. How do we know that? Because it's in the piece that the whistleblower said he gave the information to the IG, Michael Horowitz.
Yeah.
This is the government internal affairs guy who is in charge of getting to the bottom of all this garbage. There is a possibility here that Horowitz, who does not have prosecutorial power, he needs a United States attorney to convene a grand jury and all of that. There is a possibility here that the IG has uncovered significantly damaging information about the Clintons, the Uranium One deal, and Crossfire Hurricane, is about to issue his report But the FBI, who has the power as well to go out and get the same information, wants to get a hold of it first so that they can start to prepare their defense. You dig? The IG does not work for the FBI. He's the equivalent of an internal affairs officer for the United States government. He is investigating the FBI. There is a distinct possibility here that the FBI knows what Horowitz has, the internal affairs guy, and they're like, oh, we're in trouble now. Remember, Horowitz is investigating the email scandal and Crossfire Hurricane. He's already written a report on the email side with the Hillary stuff. And he's indicated at the end of the report, if you paid attention, that he could not eliminate political bias as a reason for shuttling the Hillary email investigation in favor of an investigation into Donald Trump, despite the fact there was no evidence. He's already wrote that in a report. In a report. It's already in his report. He's scheduled to issue another report soon about FBI malfeasance about the Crossfire Hurricane debacle, the investigation into Trump. There is a distinct possibility that the FBI knows how damaging this report is going to be in the Department of Justice. So this kind of feeds into theory one. It's not necessarily in conflict. But I say it's a hybrid because I want to leave you with the good news. It's a hybrid because there may actually be some good guys in this, unlike story number one, where they're all trying to make this go away. Horowitz report may be damning, and the Bureau may be involved in this search warrant to get a hold of that information to at least be able to mount the defense. Does that make sense, Joe?
Yeah.
They need the information themselves, what their culpability is in this in the Department of Justice. So why wait for Horowitz? Why wait for a Horowitz report? Let's go get there may be, in other words, you may say, well, Dan, they already have it because they turned it over to the Senate Intel Committee. Yeah, but the Bureau may be so terrified what this guy has, this whistleblower, that's why, in other words, if you read the report, they say, well, I gave him the stuff I gave the Inspector General. And you notice it says in there, Joe? But they spent 6 extra hours at the house looking for more.
Ooh.
The Bureau may have this information, probably does because it's probably been leaked from Senate Intel Committee people. And they're probably looking to determine the scope of information this guy really possesses because it's potentially very damaging. Folks, I'm putting out there, I'm giving you a wide variety of information. I want you to make an informed decision yourself. The show notes will tie this together. But the things I'm using to buttress my opinions on this are all fact. Let's just wrap it up here. These are panic moves. It's clear as day. Impeachment's not going to happen. We won back the Senate. Trump gave his answers to the Mueller probe. They clearly were not what Mueller wanted. Mueller was hoping Manafort would work out and admit there was collusion. He didn't. He was hoping Corsi would work out and admit there was collusion with WikiLeaks. He didn't. He was hoping Stone would work out and admit there was collusion. Roger Stone, he didn't. His final ace in the hole was Michael Cohen. He's got nothing on Cohen either. Now he needs to shut Cohen down because Cohen knows a key piece of the dossier that makes it true or false his trip to Prague is false. How does Cohen know that? Because Cohen never went to Prague. So he forces Cohen into a plea deal, shuts this guy down. These are panic moves.
You don't got a thing, you punk.
Nothing. So now what does he do? Now he needs to write a report because he's not going to have any indictable, impeachable charges. But the report has to be politically damaging. He's going to scoop up as much negative. Oh, Trump did a deal in Russia. Negative information. So what? Well, there's nothing illegal about that.
Right.
This report is going to be politically damaging because Mueller's purpose now is clearly to get Trump enough political damage done to him during the Democrat primary season that the report will be fodder for what, Joe? 20-plus Democrat candidates running for office who can use it daily against Trump.
Mm-hmm.
These are panic moves. Finally, on the Clinton Foundation, this raid, I don't think it's good news, folks. I think it's a Bureau DOJ effort to get their hands on really damaging Hillary information to allow the FBI, the DOJ, and all of the players involved, Rosenstein, Mueller, and everyone else, to craft a defense. Because they must understand that the IG has it. Bad stuff. Bad stuff. All right. Today's show also brought to you by our buddies at Brickhouse Nutrition. One of my favorite products out there right now is Foundation. Foundation is a creatine ATP blend. It is like having 2 extra gas. Say enough about. It's available at Brickhouse.
Yesterday.
Oh, thanks, Joe. You're a good guy.
From,
you know what's funny? I have a producer at my NRA TV show, too. The equivalent of producer Joe in NRA TV is producer Denise. Mm-hmm. And, Joe and I think Joe, I'm in a little candid moment. Joe and I are legit friends. Like this banter we have back and forth. Joe, you've been in the radio business a long time, right? Can you acknowledge that some radio hosts off the air quietly hate each other?
Yeah.
They do, right? And they get on the air and, hey, buddy, right? It happens all the time. Unfortunately, more than you know. I can tell you one place I worked where I know they hate each other because I was there. Joe and I are legit friends. Like this is real. And Denise and I are friends too. And I find it very touching that you felt the need to mention that because Denise did the same thing to me yesterday on the what Joe's talking about. Because I think self-praise stinks. And I try to never bring up my own stuff because I hate it. I hate when radio hosts constantly talk about how wonderful they are. Look at me, I'm so great.
Yeah, baby.
But I did not tell Joe to say that. So yesterday, I was in the middle of doing my NRA TV show. And what happened? A tweet came over from the Donald Trump account, which the whole world monitors, saying, go out and buy D. Bongino's new book. It's great. He's like a brave guy or something like, or he's a strong warrior for the cause or something like that.
He's smart. Yeah,
he's tough and smart. Yeah, that's it. Right.
That was
great.
And
Mr. President, I mean it. I know people on your team may listen to the show. I sincerely, from the bottom of my heart, I really deeply appreciate that. It is a great honor to have the President of the United States recognize your book on Twitter. And showing the power of his Twitter account, we dropped down to number 18 on Amazon, which is really ridiculous. I mean, the 18th most sold book on Amazon in the country during Christmas season and the holiday buying season. Thank you. I didn't expect it. I got a little bit of wind of it before it was going to come out, but I didn't expect it when it did. And I was like, wow, thank you. So thank you for mentioning that, Joe. You're a good man.
No, that's all right. My career depends on your career. So thank you, Mr.
President. Yeah, we are married
together.
together. I mean, outside of my wife, Paula, I don't think I talked to anyone more. By the way, on a personal note, not to get off track, but some of you had Paula's always a key figure in the show. I bring her up every day. There was a little innuendo yesterday. I think Joe caught on to it. Paula did too. She's like, "Did you say that on the air?" I'm like, "Yes, I did." So some of you like to know, like Paula is on my Instagram. If you want to see what we look like, most of you know what I look like. But I put a great picture that was taken at the Breakers right after that viral speech I did, and it's really she's a stunner, and the comments are amazing. Every comment's about her, not about me. Like you married up. So go check it out. I'm at D. Bongino, just like my Twitter on Instagram. So if you want to see what we all look like, check it out.
Beauty and the Beast, baby.
It is big time. And Joe is at Joe Haas with a Z.
Yeah.
1. So make sure you follow him. You can see his new Elvis look. He's got a nice looking avatar there too. So nice.
Yeah, baby. Thank you.
Yeah, baby. All right. Final story of the day, but it's an important one. Daily Caller just bringing it, by the way. Daily Caller totally bringing the heat. They had this exclusive, of course, about the FBI raid, which, again, is not good news, I'm telling you. But they had another story. They somehow got their hands, Joe, on a devastating group of email chains. I read this like, no way. Deneen Borelli from CRTV always tells me NFW, which stands for no freaking way. They got their hands on an email chain indicating that Google, at a minimum, and the Daily Caller doesn't engage in even though it affected them, in hyperbolic language in the piece, at a minimum, engaged in significant, detailed email conversations about how to suppress conservative content on their search engine. Now, that's not breaking news to us that the Google and these left-wing companies like Twitter and Facebook and these other social media meatheads, it is not breaking news that they're biased against conservative. Joe and I have been talking about it the whole week.
Firsthand, we know it.
But what happens, Joe, when we say stuff like that? The liberal kooks and the media Looney Tunes come out and say what? Oh, conspiracy theory, you're all crazy, conspiracy. Well, the Daily Caller, who between Luke Rosiak and Chuck Ross and his Richard Pollack guy, these guys have been knocking it out of the park, and they've been beating the mainstream media to just about every breaking news story. Rosiak broke the Pakistani IT case. They had Chuck Ross, who broke the Stephen Halpert thing. This guy Pollack comes out yesterday with this bombshell about the Clinton Foundation whistleblower raid. They got emails from Google execs. You got to read the emails, folks. They're postulating about various ways to kind of suppress Breitbart and the Daily Caller stories from appearing in significant search results. One guy says, like, well, they're just like bloggers. They're bloggers? So you're telling me Chuck Ross's story about Stefan Halper, these intelligence asset used against the Trump, that's made up? Well, it's not made up, but they're listen, they just can't accept the fact that the mainstream media is dead and that they're getting beat to the punch religiously by people at the Daily Caller who just put their shoes on and just work harder. It's driving them absolutely crazy that they can't control the narrative anymore. You got to read them. Now, to be fair to Google, and the piece is, they present both sides. They present the email chain in a way that it's damning, don't get me wrong. But there is apparently one liberal there. And I say that because he acknowledges in the email chain he's a Hillary Clinton supporter. I'm not, trying to disparage a guy. But one liberal who's an executive at Google who says, hey, listen, guys, this is a really bad idea. Like, I'm not a Hillary, I'm a Hillary supporter, but this could backfire on us spectacularly. So, and I want to be clear on this, too. It doesn't appear from the email chain this was ever strictly implemented. I'm not giving Google an out. They did a lot of dumb things like that ridiculous fact-checking thing they did that was only fact-checking conservatives and getting all the facts wrong. Google does a lot of stupid stuff. The point is not that it happened. The point is that in one of the world's most powerful, richest companies that lobby massively the government we elect that has power over us, that there was actual conversation about in the new public square, which is what Google is, of shutting down opinions that contradicted anything liberals had to say and almost accepted liberal newspapers as fact. It's devastating. Read the piece. The show notes today are awesome. Please read it. A lot of Daily Caller stuff. All right, one final story because I only got 2 minutes left, and it's important. I've been meaning to get to it all week. Andy Puzder, who does great work, had a piece in the Wall Street Journal, which is in yesterday's show notes. It may be subscription only. I'm not sure, but it's yesterday's show notes. Show number, what was yesterday? 861. Yeah. I'm not going to put it again in today's show notes because there's a lot of articles. But if you want to read it, you can try. I think it's subscription only. Forgive me, but sometimes you get a free couple links before they charge you. It's worth your time. You don't have to read it, though. I'm going to sum up for you what it says. It is a damning piece about stopping the nonsense about the Obama economy being comparable to the Trump economy. It's not. It is. I'm just going to give you some numbers and facts and data in a minute, 30 seconds that'll entirely debunk your liberal friends' nonsense. Obama handed Trump a great economy. Stop making it up. You look like an idiot. The average recovery after a recession, based on American history, depression, recession, recovery, is 3 to 4%. Obama's recovery, 2009 afterwards, 2.2%. The last 6 quarters of Barack Obama's presidency, the last 6 fiscal quarters, meaning 3 months times 6. Obama's growth rate, 1.5%. Trump's first 6 quarters, 3%. 1.5, 3. Donald Trump doubled it. Just a fact, folks. I know that's hard for you liberals out there. Donald Trump's first year in office looks he's gonna average 3% growth. That's the first time that's happened since 2005. Yep, 2005. Job openings under Trump over the last 21 months. 75,000 a month. Job openings are good. It means new jobs are being created. Barack Obama, 900. Employed Americans up 214,000 a month over the last 21 months under Donald Trump. Under Barack Obama's last 21 months, 157,000. Uh-oh. Full-time workers up 217,000 a month under Donald Trump. Under Obama, 148,000 a month. My bad. Weekly earnings up $2.31 since the tax cuts. Last few months under Obama, $1.31 a month. Finally, unemployment in the last 21 months, down 23%. Down 23% under Trump. Only decreased 13% under Obama. Nice try, libs. No good. I know facts and data are hard. I know your skulls are very thick, but you may want to let that sink in. It's like Nelson Muntz. Sorry. Read the Puzder piece. It's in yesterday's show notes. Print it. Highlight it for your liberal friends because they keep putting out this. Like I said yesterday, it's like Susan Powder. Stop the insanity, all right? Stop the nonsense. Obama's economy stunk. Just admit it. All right, folks. Thanks again for tuning in. Please read the show notes today. Thank you for all your purchases at the Chum Store. They all went to charity. My wife and I are going to tell you soon where it went.
All right. That's our Dan Bongino for the night. Next up, you know what it is. The Ditto Head.
A lot of you do, I'm sure. How many of you use the AirDrop feature, your iPhone, to send pictures to people? Like you're at a friend's house and everybody's taking pictures. Oh, send me that. So you AirDrop it. How many of you use that feature?
And now, from sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
Well, imagine yourself on a subway in New York City, and an alert triggers on your iPhone. Somebody has just airdropped you a photo, a nude photo of them, below the waist. This is happening in New York City. And so the Democrats are on the case here. The Democrats want to pass a law to make it illegal to send unwanted nude photos to strangers. And if you do it and they catch you, they want to put you in jail for a year. We've got to teach the people in the caravan how to do this, so the Democrats will finally find something they're doing against the law and want to put them in jail. I mean, this would be a good thing to do. Go down the caravan, give them iPhones, teach them how to use the airdrop feature, and then take pictures of below the waist, just to say that, and send them to people. And then alert the Democrats, and we can finally, because, you know, there are 42 members of the caravan who have been charged. Well, they haven't been charged. They're not going to be arrested. They're not going to be arrested for having committed crimes because the Trump administration does not want to be seen as separating families. Anyway, greetings, folks. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh behind the golden EIB microphone. Open Line Friday. If you need to get stuff off your chest like Gino yesterday, this is the day to do it. 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. By the way, speaking of airdrop, there is an easy way to make sure people you don't know cannot send you things. And that's if you go into settings, airdrop, and then select contacts only. And that means only people in your address book will be able to airdrop you things. What'll happen is you'll get a request. You may not even, if you set it up that way, you may not even get a request. If somebody that you don't know, that you don't have a contact card for, in your address book tries to airdrop you anything, it just won't show up on your phone. You can also set it up to have have to acknowledge the request rather than have your phone just automatically receive what somebody is airdropping to you. These things have been thought of well in advance by highly trained Apple engineers. I mean, it's that if you want to. And AirDrop is not the only feature that operates this way. You can set email up this way so that you'll only get alerts from people you've designated as VIPs, for example. There are all kinds of ways to make sure that whatever is happening on the subway system in New York does not happen to you. The American left. Anyway, that's not only the lighthearted news, the only example of lighthearted news. How about this? The president of a gay dating app says marriage is between a man and a woman. The app, the website of the gay dating, the gay dating app is named Grindr. Have you ever heard of a better name for an app that is tied to a specific activity? Grindr. The president of Grindr, which is the world's largest gay dating app, is facing backlash after he suggested that holy matrimony is between a man and a woman, or people who think that day they are men and women. The guy's name is Scott Chen, made the comment in a post on his personal Facebook page. Shared an article on Monday, call for the boycott of Chinese tech company HTC after reportedly backed U.S. groups opposed to same-sex marriage. This is not going to end well. President of Grindr says that gay marriage is really, marriage is between a man and a woman. University. Oakland University in Michigan. Very, very worried about the possibility somebody might show up on campus and start shooting at people. And so as a means of providing students and faculty with a defense, they are now passing out hockey pucks. Oakland University in Michigan passing out hockey pucks to be used as possible weapons against mass shooters. The Screwels initiative is twofold, circulating hockey pucks around campus in case of a dire situation and raising money to retrofit the Screwels classroom doors so they can be locked from the inside. They need a fundraiser for that. The impetus for these efforts in suburban Detroit came after the shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Florida in February. We all know the story there. So now hockey pucks. No, they're dead serious about this. Hockey pucks. Dead serious. Mark Penn is back today. He's the former Clinton pollster. Oh, speaking of the Clintons. You may remember, does the name John Huber ring a bell? John Huber is a warrior who was named by the former Attorney General Jeff Sessions to look into the Clinton Foundation and other nefarious acts engaged in by the Clintons. This headline: FBI raids home of Clinton Foundation whistleblower. This is a story from the Daily Caller, an exclusive report, very troubling, and in alignment with a previous suspicion that the whole investigation into the Clinton Foundation is bogus. According to the Daily Caller, FBI agents raided the home of a recognized Department of Justice whistleblower who privately delivered documents pertaining to the Clinton Foundation and Uranium One to a government watchdog. This according to the whistleblower's attorney. The Justice Department's Inspector General was informed that the documents show that federal officials failed to investigate potential criminal activity regarding former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, and Rosatom, the Russian company that purchased Uranium One. So basically, what is happening here is that it looks like the Department of Justice is doing everything it can to bury this investigation into the Clinton Foundation and to Uranium One. The investigation that Jeff Sessions named John Huber to look at, if they're going after the whistleblower, they're raiding the whistleblower's home. They're not raiding people that work for the Clintons. They're not raiding people that work for the Uranium One outfit. They're not raiding anybody that may have information on what the Clintons did. They're raiding the home of the whistleblower. They're also raiding Deutsche Bank and a Trump lawyer who may have had something to do with all of this. I tell you, this mess that Mueller is fabricating here. We talked about yesterday where this is going, and where it's going has nothing to do with what the American people for 2 years were led to believe. This isn't about tampering with votes. This isn't about Russian collusion to steal the election, which is what everybody thinks Mueller's been looking at. Robert Mueller is doing political opposition research, folks. He is not conducting a criminal investigation. He is conducting an opposition research operation that's no different than a Democrat Party or an opposing political party would run against on a opposing candidate. And the express purpose of this is to get Donald Trump thrown out of office. I disagree with people who think, no, Mueller is not going to do that. Mueller is just going to lay out the case, and it'll be left to other people to interpret what should be done about it. Maybe the House should engage in impeachment. I don't think that at all. I think that Mueller and everybody associated with him is expressly trying to get Donald Trump thrown out of office, even if they can do it without impeachment. I think that's where this is headed. I don't think there's any question about it. And one of the great indications of it, grab audio soundbite number 3, Jeffrey Toobin on CNN, Anderson Cooper show last night. So excited they cannot contain themselves.
Today's the first day I actually thought Donald Trump might not finish his term in office.
Really?
I mean, I think this thing is enormous.
This thing is, what is this thing? This thing is nothing in terms of violation of law. impeachable offenses, high crimes and misdemeanors, and it certainly has nothing to do with what the American people have been led to believe the past 2 years Mueller was doing. Mueller has been searching for a crime, and now he's in the process of creating a crime, or a series of them. Robert Mueller is every bit as partisan as anybody in Washington ever has been. This is not an investigation of legalities and justice. This is a political operation occurring under the banner of justice, the Department of Justice, under the banner of our judicial system. This whole thing is being cloaked and given legitimacy by virtue that it's being done by a special counsel, a man of impeccable integrity, a lawyer, a series of lawyers. This is the Washington establishment running a political opposition research operation that is designed to get rid of Donald Trump. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise. And Mark Penn, the former Clinton pollster who has been writing extensively about much of this and many of these things, has a piece out today. You know, I am invested in this. I spent the first hour, maybe the first hour and a half of this program yesterday unloading on how we've been lied to and how we've been misled and how this isn't about anything that got it started, tampering with votes, stealing the election. There's none of that in this. There's none of it. Mueller's admitting that he's got none of that. But I feel like I'm all alone, and I don't mean you, but I feel like I'm all alone in this. Everybody else, and it's frustrating. Everybody else is analyzing this as though it's a legitimate case, a legitimate legal matter, because there is a special counsel and there is a grand jury and there are investigations and there are interviews and it's being done by top drawer lawyers and all that. It's a political operation. It has always been a political operation, and there's never been a crime except for the crimes that are being ignored and covered up with this investigation. The crimes being ignored and covered up are those committed by Hillary Clinton. You know the drill. I'm getting blue in the face talking about it, but I felt like I'm the only one. And I think it is key. I think it's a fundamentally important thing that the American people have been lied to for 2 years about what's going on here. That the Russians worked with Trump to tamper with the election. That they altered the outcome of the election. That they somehow managed to involve themselves in the counting of ballots and tampered with that. That's what everybody thinks this has been. As the poll we keep citing from The Economist and YouGov indicates, over 60% of Democrats think that's what this is about. 42% of the American people think Russian meddling equals they tampered with the votes. It matters that we've been lied to about this. It matters that people in the Department of Justice are conducting a political operation under the guise of a legal proceeding. That legal proceeding is supposed to give it credence and credibility when this is nothing more. Imagine the Washington establishment as its own political party. Forget Democrat, Republican, the establishment, the elites, whatever. They are a political party, and they hate Trump. Trump beat them. They're using every bit of power and everything at their disposal to get rid of this guy and to nullify the election results of 2016. And they've tried everything. They've thrown everything up against the wall, including the Russians tampered, the Russians hacked, the Russians stole, the Russians got involved in voting machine. None of that happened. There has been a pursuit of anybody as ancillary as necessary that they can tie to Trump that may have participated in something that anybody could say is suspect or criminal or what have you. Well, Mark Penn has a piece out today that I don't feel like I'm alone. And remember, I don't mean you. I know you're up to speed on this. And there's a part of, I don't mind being a lone voice, and certainly, but this is important. This is one of the greatest travesties, scandals. And we find out now that the whistleblower who has the goods on the Clinton Foundation Uranium One deal, the same FBI trying to get rid of Donald Trump, is now trying to harass and threaten the whistleblower. The whistleblower, I thought these people were protected. Didn't you, Mr. Snerdley? I thought whistleblowers were golden. I thought whistleblowers were protected. I didn't know the FBI raided them. If you find out the whistleblower is lying to you, that's one thing, but I don't think anybody believes that. They're trying to shut that down. Washington establishment as a political party is protecting its own. From James Comey to Hillary Clinton to McCabe to Strzok Smirk to Lisa Page to Rosenstein, name them. Here is a pull quote from the Mark Penn piece. I silently cheered when I read this today, because actually I've been on this course for a year and a half, if not longer. It's clear now that Mueller is no longer looking for crimes in the presidential race of 2016. He's simply creating a narrative to delegitimize the president and to string together his words to Comey with the Flynn indictment, Cohen with Stormy Daniels payment, Roger Stone and Jerome Corsi with ties to Julian Assange, and now Cohen with underplaying Russia connections. And let's not forget the Trump Tower meeting with the attorney who was conveniently working with Fusion GPS. This is this Veselnitskaya, the honeypot. She met with Glenn Simpson, Fusion GPS, before the Trump Tower meeting, and it reported back to them after the Trump Tower meeting. Fusion GPS equals Hillary, equals Steele, equals the Steele dossier, equals the law firm Perkins Coie, equals the whole effort to sabotage Trump. And this Trump Tower meeting is a setup to begin with. Hey, we've got some dirt on Hillary you might want to see. Don Jr. says, hey, we're in the business of beating Hillary. Let's see what you got. They get there. They don't have any dirt on Hillary. They want to talk about some Russian adoption angle they're mad at. The Magnitsky Act. Big whoop. And then the honeypot goes back and reports to Fusion GPS. There is no doubt, writes Mr. Pinn. Oops, break time, just saw the clock. Hang on back. We're back, open line Friday, 800-282-2882. Let me read this paragraph again. This is Mark Penn, and I'm happy to see this out there other than on this program. It's clear now that Mueller is no longer looking for crimes in the presidential race of 2016. If he ever was, there never were any to be found. There's no doubt that the outline of Robert Mueller's report was written a long time ago and is just being filled in. For those who thought Mueller would deliver a balanced and thoughtful report, these latest actions suggest that instead, we are seeing an all-out attack on the president and the presidency, the likes of which we've never seen. Get ready for the fight of the century coming soon, and it'll be about everything except collusion with the Russian government. It's going to be about the Washington establishment and their peak at Donald Trump defeating them and their efforts using anything they can to get rid of him. Get to the phones here very soon, folks. Very, very, very soon. But I just want to share with you the opening of the Mark Penn piece because it is right on, bro. Right on. The pattern and purpose of Mueller's investigation and the end game is becoming clear. And yeah, it's clearly get the president at all costs. There's no mistake about this. Mueller is not somebody dispassionate, just assembling the facts, thank you, ma'am, and presenting them to Congress and the Senate, and so people can decide what to do. Mueller is leading the effort to get Trump out of Washington, out of the White House, out of Washington. It is a concerted political operation being disguised as a legal proceeding. And Trump's first team of lawyers had no idea what they were up against. Yeah, well, we'll cooperate. We got nothing to hide here. They thought they were equals because Trump had won the White House, and so they're never going to be equals. Trump is never going to be more than pond scum to these people. Just like anybody else not in their club is never going to be more than pond scum to these people. The team Mueller hired really foretold the story. Andrew Weissman as the stop-at-nothing pit bull and a group of Democrat-leaning lawyers, all donors to the Hillary campaign. Some have even represented the Clintons, had the obstruction of justice charge ready to go on day one. They have not been looking at the Russians tampering. It's never been about that. They've been lying to everybody with the help of the media about that. But this business, I've tried to tell Andrew Weissman, this team of lawyers that Mueller has assembled is right out of the Enron task force and right out of the Ted Stevens trial. And these are people who have asked their own star witnesses to lie on the witness stand, including in the Ted Stevens case. This is really, it's so beyond the pale that it is almost beyond believability. People just are not going to believe that the Department of Justice could be this corrupt. It's an institution that's considered to be anything but that. Trump's first team of lawyers with their don't worry and cooperate strategy set the president back, and they let this whole thing spiral out of control. They thought they were equals. Trump's president. He won the election. We're all lawyers here. We know the game, they said. So they thought as equals that they would be able to talk to the special counsel's lawyers as equals. They had no idea. Republicans never have any idea what they're up against. Bush Republicans never knew what they were up against. Frankly, I don't think Rudy has known what he's up against some of the time. And Rudy's the closest thing to a pit bull Trump has. The investigation, writes Mr. Penn, has come up truly empty on its central charge. Collusion with the Russian government. There's nothing there. It should have been disbanded. It should have been shut down the minute the original premise. But notice Rosenstein knowingly violated Justice Department regulations and did not specify a crime. Therefore, there were no boundaries or limits placed on Mueller. He was free to go anywhere, spend whatever it took, in search of or in creation, manufacture of a crime. But there wasn't any collusion. And I'm telling you, the American people still to this day think, even with Cohen pleading this and lying here, telling the truth there, and Stone and Corsi and Manafort and whatever, I will guarantee you that over half, maybe 75% of the American people think this is about the Russians tampering with votes and stealing the election and Trump being complicit. So when they watch the media report, bad day for Trump, when they see the media say, oh, these people are turning on Trump, they're thinking the special counsel has information that may prove the 2016 election was invalid. Guarantee you that's what they're thinking. That's why this is such an outrage. The investigation has come up truly empty on its central charge, collusion with Russian government. They're now trying to find somebody, anybody, who had any contact with Julian Assange with the aim of calling that collusion. But mostly what Mueller's team is doing is bludgeoning witnesses on unrelated charges to piece together a case against Trump. They're shaping that case through the indictments and threats of indictments that are being used to get guilty pleas to make the president seem like an obstructor or co-conspirator. They are literally creating the crimes. Thank you, Mark Penn. So when does somebody stand up and accuse them of this instead of analyzing this like it's an ongoing legitimate legal proceeding and investigation? Well, I think what Mueller's doing next is trying to assemble this and doing that as though it's a legitimate legal proceeding. This is a political operation, pure and simple. That's Mark Penn. There's much more to this, but that's enough to set the table. Okay, to the phones. It's Open Line Friday. What happened? Let me go to line one. Line one's okay. We have Greg in Manitowoc, Wisconsin, which is the home of Stephen Avery, Making of a Murderer, the Netflix series. Do you know Stephen Avery by any chance out there, Greg?
Rush, no, but he was in my store once, and he bought a refrigerator and a washing machine. He paid cash, and I still have the receipts.
No kidding. So you have contact with a star in a murder series on Netflix.
Yeah, it was after he got let out. When he was let out from the first legal team, they let him go because he was in for prison for the wrong thing.
Yeah. Is that refrigerator the one he put the body of the journalist in?
You know, I've often thought of that, but I don't think so.
I'm just kidding about that.
I know. You're not the first one that has been down that road. That's the wrong way to get put on the map, you know?
I know. But it put Manitowoc on the map.
You bet it did. Oh, before I forget, I got to say major dittos from the beautiful shores of Lake Michigan, because that's where we are.
Oh, I know exactly where Manitowoc is. I know Wisconsin, for we own the state of Wisconsin except for the Packers, and I know where everything of importance in Wisconsin is.
And that's where we're going right now. Your enthusiasm for the NFL rush has dropped down into the gutter. I mean, it's not there anymore. I don't hear the environmentalist wacko picks for some of the bigger games on Sunday. I haven't heard anything about Pittsburgh lately, and they're doing pretty good. I have to live with the Packers. Look how they stink, and I still watch them. Can anything I can do? Can I help you along here, or is it just, or what's going on?
Well, it's actually very disappointing to me when all of this kneeling and protesting the flag and the national anthem, when that began, and then when the media began promoting that and making heroes out of the people doing it, I remember the day I just got sad. I didn't get mad. I didn't get frustrated. I just got sad. I said, now they've tainted football. They've corrupted it. They've interjected. They've politicized the NFL even more than it was off the field. Now they're taking the politics to the field, and it's no longer what it was to me. I can't watch this game without seeing left versus right, liberal versus conservative, right versus wrong. I can't listen to sports writers or read sports writers write about the game anymore, talking about the game. It's all this social justice garbage, and it just lost. I used to have it up on a pedestal. Football was, I loved it. It was something not everybody can play at certainly professional level, and it's just lost the mystique. It hasn't come back. I go play golf most Sunday afternoons now. I keep up with it. I keep up with it, but I'm not the. Well, I'm not a slave to NFL games on TV like I used to be. Thursday night, Sunday afternoon, particularly the Steelers. I would drop everything. It's just changed. There was also here on the program, as during areas times of peak interest on my part in the NFL, the stick to the issues crowd was constantly complaining and griping at me for talking about it too much while important issues were not being discussed. And so it just, all these things came together here in a confluence of events that have made me sort of relegate the NFL over here to a different degree of importance. What you miss the environmental wacko picks?
Yeah, they were always fun. Take, for instance, now, and this is an easy one for you. Green Bay is playing Arizona Cardinals this Sunday. You know.
So you want to hear what the environmentalist wacko pick would be for the Packers versus the Cardinals?
Oh, sure. And I already know, from all the history of hearing what you have said, I know which way you're going to go with it. That was an easy one. But some of the other ones could be more difficult when you get into a couple of animals and that kind of a thing. You know,
no. The environmentalist wacko pick, if you know what you're doing, it's in the hands of an expert like me. The environmentalist wacko picks are never a challenge. Give me a game of two animals that you think would be tough to pick using the environmentalist wacko method.
Well, I'm not sure if they're all in the same league, but when you get like, you know, panthers and dolphins or something like that, you know, animals that everybody loves, you know, and that kind of a thing. You know what I'm saying? Whether they would ever play each other, I don't know. But the point is, that's two animals, you know.
Panthers and Dolphins, that'd be easy. Now, you might think this would be easy. Steelers and Chargers. This is the Sunday night game. So you think I don't know what's going on anymore, but I do. We have the Steelers and Chargers. That was a game that's been flexed. This was originally a 4:30 game, but they moved it because there isn't any other game on the schedule this weekend that warrants prime time. That's how bad this week's schedule is. Packers, Cardinals. You mentioned the Dolphins and Panthers. Nothing. So the Steelers and Chargers. It's a great game for Sunday nights in Pittsburgh. And so how do you handicap that with the environmentalist wacko method? First, you got to identify what the Chargers are. What are the chargers? How would you define, in the environmentalist wacko method, what are the chargers to you?
That's a good question. I'm not sure what they're supposed to charge. I think of a Dodge right away, a car, I guess. I don't know.
Well, but look at their logo on the helmet. It's a lightning bolt.
Ah, I got it. Okay.
So then is it a bolt? Are they bolts of lightning? Are they chargers like you charge your phone or you charge your Prius?
Yeah.
All week, or are they charged? They charge. They're like the Roman legions, and they charge into battle. What are they? The Steelers. That's easy.
Yeah.
And then deciding who deserves to win and lose based on what they are in terms of environmentalist wackos. Then you add the point spread to it. I know it was fun. It was fun. It was a way to combine the discussion of issues with the discussion of football and keep everybody happy. And you want to hear more football talk. This is what Open Line Friday is about. This is where I get to hear the complaints, and I get to hear the praise, and I get to hear what everybody's happy about, not happy about, what they're missing.
In every corner of the...
Welcome back. El Rushbo, your guiding light on Open Line Friday. Telephone number is 800-282-2882. Mr. Snerdley, did you happen to get the name and the phone number of our previous caller? I wasn't through with you. We don't know who that was. It was Manitowoc, but we don't have a way of getting hold of him. Now, that nixes an idea I wanted to do today. All right. Well, he may now try to get back through. If he does, let me know. I don't want to talk to him again. I just need to know if you get hold of him. Where are we going next? Let's see. We try to... well, I'll just pick one. Michael in Tallahassee, Florida. Great to have you with us on Open Line Friday. Hi.
Hello, Rush. I'll tell you what. I want to touch base with you regarding the caravans down there, saying it's illegal for them to come into the United States, and we're separating the families. When one of our citizens breaks the law, we separate them from their families and put them in jail, don't we?
All the time.
Well, then why are the immigrants more special than our citizens?
Because of the media and because of the Democrat Party raising holy hell about it and the American people believing it.
Well, see, and here's the issue that I have. I don't hear any of the media talking about that side of the equation. So I just wanted to bring that up. And then a little side note. I'm a veteran, and I've stopped watching football because of that kneeling thing.
Okay, well, I appreciate that, Michael. This is falling apart fast here. On the caravan business, let me see if I can find a story here real quickly. It literally is that 42 people who they've not been charged. They should be arrested. They're not going to be charged or arrested, and the reason they're not going to be is because it would require us to separate them from their families. And so the bottom line is these people are going to get away with it. They're getting away with whatever they have done in regards to violating American law and crossing the border illegally. Here it is. And it's from the AP. No one arrested in border clash will be prosecuted. That's what it is. There have been arrests, but they're not going to be prosecuted. No criminal charges will be filed against any of the 42 people associated with a caravan of Central American migrants who were arrested in a clash that ended with U.S. authorities firing tear gas into Mexico to counter rock throwers. The AP this story is filled with so much garbage. Tear gas. It turns out, this is the bottom line, not a single person in that mob of 500 migrants who tried to force their way across the border is going to be prosecuted. 42 of them were arrested. And get this, the Associated Press admits that charges were not filed because the administration generally doesn't separate families. What? Wait a minute, I thought that's what Trump's administration did do. I thought that's been the meme or the narrative for weeks now since this whole issue of asylum and the caravan began. The Trump administration is just, without any compassion whatsoever, separating mothers from their little children. But now the AP says that the Trump administration doesn't generally separate families. Therefore, we're not going to prosecute. So I guess when it's good news, i.e. members of the caravan arrested not being prosecuted, that's great news to the AP and, of course, the American left, then I guess that it's okay to acknowledge that the Trump administration is not separating families. The Border Patrol says that those arrested Sunday for illegal entry included 27 men. The other 15 are women and children, and that many more were not arrested because they were children or parents accompanying the children, which once again proves the caravan organizers put the women and children at the front of the attack to use them as human shields, especially since the vast majority of the caravan are young men. Brief break yet again. Back with more after this.
Somebody has to have the...
Greetings and welcome back, folks. Great to have you. Rush Limbaugh on Friday.
And now, from sunny South Florida, it's Open Line Friday.
And here we go. Second hour. Telephone number if you want to be on the program, 800-282-2882. And the email address, lrushbo@eibnet.us. So I'm watching CNN this morning. I have it on. All of a sudden, I look up and I see Christy Todd Whitman. Christy Todd Whitman, a former Republican governor of New Jersey and quintessential Republican establishment type. Rhino, if you will. Right out of the McCain wing of the party. You know what she's talking about? The need for serious climate change action. She's quoting from the Trump administration climate change report, which, for about the gazillionth time now, in the last 30 years, warns us that we only have 10 years left to address these dire circumstances, or else by the end of the century, 82 years from now, we're going to die. We have 10 years. And if we don't do what these people say needs to be done in 10 years, then in another 82 years, we are going to die. And I looked at that just on the surface of it. How do we even have a chance when brain-dead rhinos even fall for this stuff? And by the way, I mean brain-dead falling for it. It could well be that they're just their own version of pro-government, leftist-type activists and sign on to it just because the government says so. But I also wonder how many people on our side who buy into this stuff really just don't know. They just accept it because they think the sources are credible. Well, it turns out, and of course, one of the selling points this latest climate report, well, it came from Trump's own administration. And the media is loving running around saying that Trump's saying, I just don't believe it. Trump's, well, what do you mean? Your own administration put out the report, and Trump's, I didn't put out the report. It may have come from people who work in Washington, but they're not part of my operation. I did not put out the report. I do not believe it. Then they start mocking him and making fun of him as being a full-fledged idiot. And if you're just patient, if people are just patient, then we eventually will find out. Andrew Light, who worked on the 2015 Paris Accord negotiations as a senior advisor to the U.S. Special Envoy on Climate Change under John Kerry, served as a review editor for the assessment. In other words, an Obamaite wrote this climate report in the Trump administration. Andrew Light, who worked on the 2015 Paris Accord negotiations as a senior advisor to the U.S. Special Envoy on Climate Change under Secretary of State John Kerry, served as a review editor for this assessment, overseeing the pivotal final chapter that concluded under a worst-case scenario that global warming could wipe out as much as 10% of the U.S. economy by 2100. Mr. Light also spent 5 years as a senior fellow and director of international climate policy at the Center for American Progress, which was founded and now led by longtime Democrat insider and fishing victim John Podesta. The center is also financed by liberal billionaires such as George Soros and Tom Steyer. So this Trump administration, like any other, has career appointees. The left gets themselves appointed to these career positions. They never leave, and they serve to corrupt. Even though we have a new president from a new party, Obamaites still populate much of Washington in the bureaucracies and in the cabinet level departments and so forth, like FDA, EPA. I mean, they're all over the place, just like the left appoints judges who are left-wing activists, not really judges, and they are there to provide election loss insurance. And so here we basically have somebody at work for John Kerry and this phony special envoy on climate change who had the final review of the Trump administration National Climate Assessment. The involvement of Mr. Light and other figures known for their climate change advocacy has raised questions about the credibility of the report, which have been widely depicted as a politically neutral scientific document. Yes, everything the left does is never said to be liberal. It's never said to be socialist. It's always said to be nonpartisan. It's always said to be neutral. It's always said to be scientific, put together by disinterested specialists. Just like Mueller is a disinterested, dispassionate enforcer of the law. So once again, the nation has been totally misled. An uber left-wing hack climate change activist disguised as a scientist and envoy writes the final review, the last chapter review of the whole thing. It gets published under false premises. This is why Trump is so valuable. You realize how many people would cave to the pressure on this? Most would say, oh, my administration puts it out. I have to back it. My administration put this out. I can't disavow my own administration, but there's Trump doing so. This is deep state, folks. This is exactly what, if you're wondering what the deep state is, great illustration of former Obama administration officials or official with ties to the Democrat front group Center for American Progress helped prepare this ridiculous fourth national climate assessment. It's nothing more than a left-wing political document. Speaking of federal employees, this from the New York Times. Federal employees are warned not to discuss Trump resistance at work. At workplaces across the U.S., it's routine for American conversations to turn to President Trump, whether his policies are good, whether he should be impeached, what to think about the resistance. Yeah, notice what the New York Times thinks that conversations about Trump are in the workplace. Should we impeach this guy? Policies any good? What do you think about the resistance to Trump? That's what the New York Times wants everybody to believe, anybody and everybody's talking about when it comes to Trump at work. Some people at work even drink from Make America Great Again mugs. Others tape cartoons to their cubicle walls portraying Trump as a Russian quisling. But roughly 2 million people who work for the federal government have now been told it may be illegal for them to participate in such discussions at work. A pronouncement that legal specialists say breaks new ground and that some criticized as going too far. This is a guidance issued by the Office of Special Counsel, warning that talking about impeaching or resisting Trump is a violation of the Hatch Act. By the way, it's not related to Mueller's office. This is the Office of Special Counsel. It's an independent agency that enforces the Hatch Act. Did you know that? That we have an agency? An independent agent does nothing but examine whether people are violating the Hatch Act, which nobody has ever been prosecuted for violating. Anyway, this guidance says the Hatch Act prohibits federal employees from making or displaying statements at work about impeaching or resisting Trump. Which, the reason this is even a story is because the New York Times is livid about this. Denial of First Amendment rights. Denial of free speech. Government employee unions are outraged. The Trump-hating left is riled up about these restrictions, and so they went to the New York Times, and the New York Times has written a story making it look like Trump himself is limiting discussion about him. Have you heard that the Trump Organization planned to give Vladimir Putin a $50 million penthouse in the Trump Tower, Moscow? Have you heard about this? Yeah, this is part of the deep investigation into Russian collusion by the special counsel, Mr. Integrity himself, Robert Mueller. Here are the details. The Trump Organization at one time planned to give Vladimir Putin a penthouse worth $50 million in the never-built Trump Tower, Moscow, according to a new report. Felix Sater, real estate developer, former mobster turned FBI informant, who, of course, advised the Trump Organization on the deal. So you see, Trump has former mobsters working for him. And these former mobsters are helping Trump get the Trump Tower Moscow building built. And this former mobster, Felix Sater, he's the guy who suggested that they give Putin the penthouse as an incentive to get the thing built. This guy's running around saying that you imagine the coup it would be if the Trump Tower Moscow was where Vladimir Putin lives. Everybody would want to live there. If we give away the penthouse to Putin, a $50 million value, we can get other Russians paying upwards of $250 million to live there just because Putin does. This is the guy's idea. In fact, he said in Russia, the oligarchs would bend over backwards to live in the same building as Vladimir Putin. My idea was to give a $50 million penthouse to Putin, charge $250 million more for the rest of the units. All the oligarchs would line up to live in the same building. This is all part now of the special counsel investigation, and this is going to be used to show that Putin and Trump had a budding relationship, and that Trump was willing to give away a $50 million apartment to Putin. They're going to say that equals an impeachable offense or worse, when in fact the building never got built. The offer was never made to Putin because the building never got built. For a whole host of reasons, the building didn't get built. I remember when Trump, he bought Mar-a-Lago, which was the home that was built by Marjorie Merriweather Post. And it's an amazing place when you realize that this place was a single-family dwelling. The square footage is like 70,000 square feet. It's just unbelievable. And it was in a state of disrepair when Trump bought it many, many years ago for $10 million. And after Trump bought it, now hang on, I'm going somewhere with this. After Trump bought it, shortly after, 60 Minutes did a feature on Trump buying this place. Marjorie Merriweather Post of Post Serials, she's the mother of the actress Dina Merrill. She was married to E.F. Hutton. When E.F. Hutton speaks, people listen. E.F. Hutton was the founder of Seminole Golf Club, which is Augusta South. It's right up the road from here. This place was and is magnificent. But 60 Minutes did a story with Trump and Ivana, his ex-wife Ivana. They're walking the grounds of the estate. And 60, why are you buying this? There's more room here than the whole state of Florida needed. Why are you buying this? This is outrageous. It was only $10 million. Trump said it's an investment I couldn't pass up. But the upkeep of the place and the property taxes never just became a huge nut. So Trump sought permission to turn the thing into a private club. And he would keep a certain number of bedrooms in the house for his personal use and his family's use. He hoisted a gigantic American flag over Mar-a-Lago, and the town council of Palm Beach went bananas, calling it an eyesore. It was too big. They said it made the place look like a car dealership. It's the kind of flags you see at a car dealership. But it got the attention that Trump wanted. He eventually prevailed, and that flag flew, and it still does. He eventually got permission to turn it into a private club. I'm really compressing the story here for the purpose. After he got permission to turn it into a private club, but one of the reasons he did, he says, because the existing private clubs on Palm Beach are so exclusive that real people can't get into them. And he wanted a club for real people. So it's got membership from all over the place. But shortly after he announced that he was opening it as a club, he announced his original roster of members. And the price to join back then was, I think, $200,000 or $250,000. And I'm talking about over 10 years ago now, but way longer than that. And one of the first people that Donald Trump announced as a member of Mar-a-Lago was Prince Charles. Prince Charles wasn't a member. And if he was, he didn't pay anything. This is the point. So the idea that you're going to build a building in Moscow and maybe give the penthouse to Vladimir Putin is how the Trump organization did business in order to build up the value of whatever property. I mean, it was Prince Charles, it was Sylvester Stallone, Arnold Schwarzenegger, Elton John. All these names were mentioned as original members at Mar-a-Lago. It was just part of the marketing technique. And so coming along and here naming Putin maybe as the beneficiary of the penthouse was never going to happen. It's just marketing. It was just designed to get the thing off the ground, which ended up not happening. And it's this kind of innocent way Trump does business that they're trying to criminalize now and say could justify Trump being impeached and kicked out of Washington. They're just jealous. There's not a one of these people going after Trump who could do what he has done. They couldn't even be president as effective as he has been. Not a one of them could start from scratch and earn what Trump has or build what Trump has, and they know it. And so they construct other ways to make him seem like an inferior and a neophyte. The way he tweets, the way he speaks, the way he doesn't read, versus them. All these super educated, brilliant Ivy League graduates, impeccable taste and sophistication. Guys like Trump are not supposed to happen in Washington. Outside Washington, fine. That's fine. But don't bring it inside the Beltway, because people like this are not supposed to be able to succeed there. And Trump has, and they are livid about it. Yeah, grab audio soundbite number 2. Not enough time to get started with a call here, so the calls, I will get to them right as we get into the next segment. But this is good. Last night, Hannity played a soundbite from me on this program yesterday regarding my take on this phony political investigation that Mueller is conducting that is being made to look like a criminal / judicial / special counsel investigation. And this is how it sounded.
Amidst all the hysteria today over Michael Cohen's guilty plea, Rush Limbaugh had a very sobering perspective on the big picture. Take a look.
We have been lied to ourselves. We have been misled. We have been misdirected by a willing accomplice drive-by media working with Robert Mueller and his staff of anti-Trump lawyers and the entire Democrat Party combined with the Washington establishment to create in the minds of the American people a story that didn't happen, couldn't happen, nobody can ever prove did happen. Where is the tampering of votes? Where is the meetings? Where is the strategy? Where is the evidence that Trump got together with Russians to sabotage the Hillary campaign, which is what everybody has been led to believe happened here? Robert Mueller has nothing, because there is nothing, on what everybody in this country has been misled to believe for the past 2 years.
Bingo. Right on the money.
It is. It is right on the money. I thank Hannity for airing that important little bite. I was going to get to the phones here, but something happened. I got an email during the break. I have to address this. If you're on hold, hang on. Coming to you, El Quico. Little Spanish lingo there. Now, remember when Jeff Bezos and Amazon made a deal with New York City to locate headquarters 2 in Long Island City. And what was the deal? That Amazon would get a tax break to the equivalent of $60,000 to $70,000 per employee. Was there collusion there? Did the state of New York and the city of New York collude with Amazon? You might say, well, yeah, but Amazon's not a foreign government. Maybe. But Rush, the email says, if Trump offered Putin a penthouse, why, that really looks bad. That would be as bad as separating families. The pictures would look bad, Rush, because that would mean that Trump is trying. This all happened before Trump even dreamed about being president. But here's the thing about this, folks. There wasn't any collusion. This is why this is so important to remember. There hasn't been an effort to find any evidence of Russia tampering with votes, altering the outcome of the election, sabotaging it, because it didn't happen. The Mueller investigation has never been about that. We have been lied to from the get-go. It has never been about that because the people know that this election was legit, and they know that no votes were tampered with. Rosenstein says, grab audio soundbite number 1, just to remind you, the last indictments of a bunch of Russians on July 13th of this year, Rosenstein said,
there's no allegation in this indictment that any American citizen committed a crime. There's no allegation that the conspiracy changed the vote count or affected any election result.
And there never has been any suspicion. Even Barack Obama himself, during his last year in office, in discussing this, because people were getting mad at him for not doing anything to stop the Russians. And he said, it's not possible. It isn't possible to steal a presidential election. It's too massive. It's too big. You wouldn't know where to go if you wanted to try to sabotage votes. You wouldn't know what precincts you had to go. Then you wouldn't have to, you'd have to figure out what you would have to do with the Electoral College. Obama himself said it's not possible. And I'm telling you, Mueller and his band of investigators and everybody else involved in this has known from before they started this that there was no Russian tampering. Russia had nothing to do with the outcome of the election or the tampering of any votes whatsoever. So, if that didn't happen, there can't have been any collusion with Putin, either by offering him a penthouse or anything else. It didn't happen. So this effort to try to tie Trump to some kind of collusion with Russia by offering Putin a penthouse in a non-existent Trump Tower building in Moscow, it's all smoke and mirrors. There wasn't any collusion. It's so important to remember this. The basic foundation for all of this didn't happen. Therefore, anything that they claim is related to it is bogus because none of it happened. The Russians did not tamper. The Russians did not, even if they hacked, that didn't affect the outcome of the election. It didn't affect any votes. It didn't have a thing to do with the fact that Hillary Clinton lost. And therefore, anything they contrive that services the idea that Trump colluded with Russia, gave Putin or offered Putin a penthouse, it's all meaningless. It's all irrelevant. That's why they're trying to manufacture a new set of supposed criminal actions Trump engaged in that have nothing to do with collusion. Even the Trump Tower meeting, even if they had dirt on Hillary Clinton, it's not illegal to hear it. None of that was illegal. And there wasn't any dirt on Hillary in the Trump Tower meeting anyway. Okay. To the phones as promised, John in Indianapolis. I'm glad you waited, sir. You're up next. Hello.
Rush, Merry Christmas to all you, your family, your staff, because they deserve their stocking stuff because they have the coolest jobs ever. I listened to your opening at 12 o'clock. After the Pretender song, you went into the airdrop thing with the photos, right? And I thought instantly, Carlos Danger and Anthony Weiner. What an embarrassment that must be to the Democrat Party.
Not at all. The Democrats are not embarrassed by Weiner. They're mad he got caught, just like they're not embarrassed by Clinton. They're mad he got caught. I don't know what the airdrop thing has to do with Carlos Danger, unless you want to think that Anthony Weiner was airdropping pictures of himself on a New York subway. But there's no allegation that he was among the subway riders doing that. Where are we going next? Shirley in Phoenix, welcome. Great to have you on the EIB network. Hello.
I'm a first-time caller, and I love your show. And I would like to talk about the Democratic Party running Kyrsten Sinema for president in 2020, like they did Obama. I live in Arizona, and the billionaire Tom Steyer and the Democratic Party spent millions of dollars to get her elected to Jeff Flake's seat, who is a big-time brain-dead rhino. And I'm getting sick of seeing him on television. But anyway,
you know what Flake is doing right now?
Pardon?
You know what Flake is doing right? Flake is get this now, folks. Jeff Flake. This is not going to take away from what you want to say about Sinema, but since you bring Flake up, I want to tell people what he's doing. He is blocking confirmation votes on Trump judicial nominees because the Senate will not pass a bill to protect poor widow Bobby Mueller from being fired. And so here's this great Republican, this great patriot, Jeff Flake, right out of the McCain wing of the party, standing in the way of judicial nominees that he does not oppose being confirmed because the Senate will not pass a piece of legislation protecting little Bobby Mueller from being fired by mean little Trump. It is the most childish thing that we've seen yet, and it is the epitome of irrational never-Trumperism. But I am fascinated by your theory that the Democrats are going to nominate this Kyrsten Sinema babe.
Okay, she's a bit like, I don't think she's that bad looking, and she portrays herself as this angelic.
Wait a minute. Who said she is bad looking?
Well, I'm just saying, I as a woman looking at another woman, I don't consider her beautiful, but she's not bad looking.
Okay.
And she's very soft-spoken, and she acts like she really cares about people and the people of Arizona. And my husband and I we research everybody that we vote for the election, and we came up with some very interesting things about Kyrsten Sinema. And I would like for you and your staff to look into everything you can about her so you can inform the public what a fraud she is. And just a few things.
That won't matter if she's as good looking as you say.
Well, I think the 30 people running for the Democratic, I think that's a bunch of hogwash. I think they want people not to even think that Trump doesn't have a chance to become second-term president. And
wait a minute. What do you think is hogwash? It's not. I'm having trouble hearing what you're saying. What
Democrat president?
Oh, you don't think a lot of Democrats are going to run?
No, I don't. I think they're just saying that so people won't even pay attention to that, to what they're doing. And I think that Kyrsten is being groomed. She's going to get Jeff Flake's seat.
Well, let me ask you. Yes, she's going to get. I know, but is she talking about running for president?
No, she's not. That's why I think that it's a real possibility, and that she's the type of person that the Democrats love.
Okay, so as I understand this, all the Democrats talking about running are not going to, and the woman not talking about it is going to. And this we know because we're talking about Democrats. Along these lines, Beto O'Rourke, what is his real name? Rufus Julius O'Rourke, or whatever his name is. Robert Francis, that is. Robert Francis, because Karl Rove kept calling it, refused to call him Beto. Karl Rove said, we don't have people in Texas named Beto. What is this? He's Robert Francis O'Rourke. Anyway, he's being pushed by some of the Democrat Party as the star presidential nominee in 2020. And Rahm Emanuel, the mayor of Chicago, says, what? Since when do losers end up being suggested as our nominee. And Abraham Lincoln is one who did it, a loser who did become a nominee. Abraham Lincoln is the one exception to this. But the interesting thing is that it's Rahm saying it. Rahm Emanuel. Here you've got this supposedly young, good-looking Kennedy-esque guy out of Texas who should have beat Ted Cruz, but didn't. And because he should have beat Ted Cruz, he may well be the savior and star of the Democrat Party. And Rahm Emanuel's over our dead bodies. Is that going to happen? As to Democrats seeking the nomination, I respectfully disagree. I don't know what the final number of Democrats in the primary debates is going to be, but I happen to think that there are more of them that are going to talk about it and seriously look into it than anybody can imagine. John Kerry just threw his hat back into the ring today. John Kerry, who served in Vietnam, is talking about maybe doing it again. Hillary Clinton is going to do it again. She and her husband have started out this world tour, this speaking tour. By the way, they first stopped. They didn't even come close to filling up half an arena, and nobody could hear what Bill was saying when it was his turn because she had a coughing spasm fit. Tom Steyer says that he's serious about running. He's their climate change financier. You've got Kamala Harris, who's already been to Iowa and New Hampshire, and you've got Spartacus, Cory Booker, who's he's on the way to Iowa. The big wild card's Bernie Sanders. Can Bernie Sanders recapture the magic? Will he go for it again? Pocahontas, Elizabeth Warren, she's set on running. I think there's a slew of them. I think, I don't know about Andrew Cuomo. I don't know about Andrew Cuomo. Maybe in his mind, maybe. And don't rule out Michelle Obama. Whatever you do, do not rule her out. I don't care. That's exactly right. She said she's never going to run, just like Kyrsten Sinema has not talked about running, and we're told in the Democrat Party that's when you run, is when you say you're not going to. But Michelle Obama, with Oprah behind her, gets Stacey Abrams back in the mix to get even for losing Georgia. Can you imagine that troika out there trying to secure the Democrat nomination? Of course, Barack Hussein would have to get in on the action as the husband. And over here, you've got Hillary feeling ganged up on again, this time by female African Americans. It could be fun to watch. Open Line Friday, Rush Limbaugh serving humanity simply by showing up. And this is Alicia in Rio Rancho, New Mexico. And welcome to the EIB Network. Great to have you with us.
Thank you, and I hope you have great holidays.
I hope you do, too. I really do. I hope everybody has the greatest holidays they've ever had, and I hope it meets every hope and expectation that you have. What are you doing for the holidays? Do you know yet?
We'll be home, but we'll probably have some visitors. And I just hope, I don't want to fly anymore because every time I fly, have to go into Albuquerque, go through 3 airports, 2 or 3 airports to get anywhere.
Right.
I am so sick of being force-fed CNN at every airport. I mean, you just can't get away from it. It's in the lounges, it's in the bars, it's in the restaurants. It's all over. What do we have to do to get rid of CNN?
I wish that I knew. I wish they've got an exclusive arrangement with, I don't know who. I don't know what entity it is that is in charge of which cable news network. They're not, there are other channels available on TV stations in airport bars and lounges and so on. I do not know who. They're obviously paying for it, but I don't know who they pay. And so I don't know how they arrange it. All I know is that you're by no means the only person that complains about it. And if it weren't for that, they really have no audience out in the general public compared to others. I mean, their audience is like 300,000, 400,000 prime time for something that's supposedly a national network.
Yeah, and that's only because they force feed it to us at airports. There's got to be a way. What do they have, a lifetime contract?
I have no idea. Like I say, I'll have to look into this because I really don't know.
Because if you look into it and you get an answer, please tell us.
Oh, I wouldn't keep that information from you. Were I to find out, it's actually my bad for not looking into it further. I know they've got a monopoly in there, and I've just never been focused on finding out how and why. I'm just like everybody else is just.
As I said, I have to go anywhere. I have to go through at least 2, probably 3 airports.
What? You're in Rio Rancho,
just north of Albuquerque.
So you have to drive to the Albuquerque airports. Is it you're in suburbia there?
Yes.
All right.
And so you go from Albuquerque to either DFW or Atlanta up to New York. If you're going that way, going the other way, you got to go from here to Denver to wherever you're going.
Yeah.
And there's no way around CNN.
Look, I can turn it off here. And the most I'm exposed to CNN in a day, concentrated, would be maybe 30 minutes. I mean, it's always on, but the total aggregate time I spend paying attention to it's 30 minutes. But if you're in an airport and you want to watch news, it's the only chance you have, the only opportunity you have.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so
Well, actually, it's not. You have a phone, or iPhone, or an iPad, or a tablet, something like that?
I don't.
You don't?
I'm very old-fashioned. I'm calling you on a landline.
Wow. Would you like an iPad?
Oh, I would love an iPad.
Well, good. Okay, hang on that, because with an iPad, you can get a streaming service like DirecTV Now or YouTube TV and watch any cable news network you want on your iPad, as long as you got a connectivity. We'll send you a cellular version so you can do it. Hang on. Don't hang up.
Okay.
We'll figure a way to get it to you.
Thanks.
Open Line Friday.
Yes, sir, Bob. One exciting, busy broadcast hour remaining. As hosted by me, Rush Limbaugh, here at the Limbaugh Institute for Advanced Problem-Solving Techniques, Anti-Media Studies, Anti-Leftist Studies. How you doing today, Gino? 800-282-2882 if you want to be on the program. Yes, I know about it. There's a 7.0 magnitude earthquake in Anchorage, Alaska. And the cable news networks are on the case, showing the damage. There are predictions of tsunamis, tsunami warnings in some of the coastal areas. Do you know what a tsunami is? Most people, I would submit to you, do not know what a tsunami is. And you can't blame them. They've watched movies with tsunamis. A tsunami is portrayed as a gigantic wave that comes out of nowhere and drowns everybody. 30-foot, 40-foot waves. And they tell you that, no, that's not what a tsunami is. A tsunami can result in the overall the water level, sea level climbing. But what a tsunami, this is actually kind of hard to explain. And knowing full well that there are scientific experts. Remember in the old days, Mr. Snerdley, when I would attempt to explain something scientifically and they would all call and tell me to shut up, that I'm not a scientist and I ought not be trying to explain these things. Since those days, I have established myself as a scientific expert, primarily in the area of climate change. By the way, I asked myself a question earlier. How in the world is it that somebody like Christy Todd Whitman, a Republican establishment member extraordinary, is out reciting climate change gibberish in terminology exactly like any run-of-the-mill leftist? And the answer is they're paid. They work at think tanks. They're paid. People promote studies. They're paid to have these beliefs in many areas. When scientific areas, special interest, not political. See, that's another brilliant aspect of this. They've got climate change is not categorized as a political issue, which is all it is. It's not science. They want you to believe that it's science, but it isn't. If it's science, then there cannot be any legitimate claim to climate change because not every scientist agrees, and science is not up for a vote. Scientific fact is scientific fact. It's not scientific opinion. So a consensus of scientists believing anything does not make it science. And there are some really brilliant scientists out there who tell you that the so-called science behind climate change is as bogus as anything they've ever seen. So it's all politics. But it takes place under the rubric of science, like the Mueller investigation is happening under the umbrella of the legal system and the Department of Justice, when it's nothing more than a political opposition research campaign being run by a lawyer. That's all it is. Now, CNN, the tsunami. What a tsunami is basically, you can't see it. It's beneath the surface. And it's because of an earthquake, which also, in terms of the ocean, is beneath the surface, so the ocean floor moves. This causes, essentially, there's two phases to it. Water will be seen to be receding from the shoreline, and then when it comes back at a much higher level. Now, there can be, if it's really dramatic, there can be some waves on the surface associated with it, but most of the waves of a tsunami are beneath the surface. They result in flooding. They can result in a massively elevated sea level. But a tsunami is not automatically this gigantic wave that you see from way over on the horizon, and you say, man, maybe we got 10 minutes, maybe not, right, because you can't see it coming. Remember, there was an earthquake in, I think, Central America, South America, some 10 years ago, and they issued tsunami warnings for as far away as Hawaii. So CNN and the cable news networks fired up the cameras on the shoreline at Oahu and the Big Island, and they're waiting for the gigantic wave. Remember this? And there is no gigantic wave, but yet the tsunami is happening. And people who knew what they were doing in Oahu got on their boats and took the boats out because a wave wasn't going to swamp them. They're going to be the tsunami could flood their boat, theoretically, depending on how it reacted with the shoreline. But you get away from shore, you get out there, and you just ride the tsunami as it comes in and goes out. But you don't, for the most part, most tsunamis, you'll not see it. It's all beneath. You see the results of it. So it was kind of funny. The media didn't know. The media was expecting this gigantic wave. And at the moment, the U.S. Geological Survey or whatever was telling people, this is it, the tsunami is hitting right now. CNN's anchors are looking out over the ocean. I don't see it yet, Brooke, do you? Huh? We got a sharp eye out over here, Anderson. We're getting peeling and looking for the wave, but I don't see it. But it was happening right in front of them. Now, it turned out to be a very minor tsunami effect as far away as Hawaii, but they had people tracking it as it was moving from off the coast of Chile or wherever it was all the way across the Pacific. They had their scientific algorithms and their diagrams. They were trying to show where, and so people were looking for this gigantic wave because just like in the China syndrome, nuclear power means a meltdown. And a poisoning of everything. A tsunami means this gigantic tidal wave. A tidal wave is not necessarily associated with a tsunami. You've seen people out there surfing on these 15, 20-foot waves. No tsunami caused that. There's just a confluence of meteorological factors, largely wind, creating waves on the surface of the ocean. But a tsunami, a legitimate tsunami resulting from an earthquake, is going to happen beneath the surface of the water. Because the earthquake can't happen on the ocean. The ocean can't move on its plates. It's a bunch of water. It'll go wherever its container lets it go. But the ocean, the ocean floor moves. Yeah, with an earthquake, obviously. And when the ocean floor moves and rearranges itself, that has effect on all the water above it. A tsunami is a giant sucking of water away from the coastline and then bringing it back. But it doesn't happen instantly. It takes a while for all this. We're talking about a massive amount of water that has to be moved. but you can see the sea level climb and get big. Now, in some cases, they are so massive that you will see a wave on the surface. But for the most part, a tsunami is not something you actually see. You see the results of it, but you don't see it actually happening. I imagine your phone's ringing off the hook in there with people. He doesn't even know what he's talking about. I saw a tsunami once and it ruined my hut. It could be Obama's brother calling. Now CNN in the airports. It turns out, ladies and gentlemen, that CNN has paid for the exclusivity in airports. They are paying about 60 of the largest airports in the country. They have agreements with CNN requiring CNN to pay for the televisions and all of the cable infrastructure. According to the Philadelphia Inquirer, airports also get up to 6 minutes each hour to promote the airport or local attractions as part of the tit-for-tat deal. And the CNN programming at an airport is not exactly that programming you see. It's especially tailored, and much of it is the same. But it's a special feed that gives the airport 6 minutes an hour to run commercials for in-house shops or restaurants or whatever the airport wants to advertise about itself. CNN Airport covers the costs related to the TVs, the related infrastructure, provides programming specifically geared for airports, and pays us for the opportunity to be in our facility, said a representative from the Minneapolis St. Paul International Airport. Fox News wanted to find out how this happened. They did a report on it. So they went and talked to the airport guys. The airport guys said, well, they pay us. They build the cable, they build the infrastructure, they buy us the TV sets, and they give us advertising on whatever network they throw in here. Miami International spokesperson simply pointed the network to a document proving that CNN is more than willing to pay the most for access. Apparently, they have gone to every other cable network and said, hey, you want access here? And CNN has paid the most for it. Not all of the content, and it has a name. CNN Airport is the feed. That's the name of the feed. There is weather, various entertainment programs, even some live sports, which would probably be soccer or lacrosse or some typical left-wing sophisticated sports endeavor. And these are long-term contracts that CNN signs. And because of that, the network is able to curate content seen by travelers, whether they approve of it or not. The Miami airport signed a 6-year deal with CNN that promises a maximum annual guarantee of $150,000 that could be adjusted every year to make sure the deal is the same as it is with other similar airports. So if some airport comes along and it's worth it to them to spend $200,000, CNN can go to the other airports and say, look, somebody else is paying us $200,000, and if you don't, so they try to keep it the same airport to airport, probably tailored to market size. But CNN Airport, the feed, has its own PR structure. It has its management team and a media kit. And the CNN Airport media kit says 323 million people eyeball a television set featuring CNN in airports every year. At the 2,400 plus gates throughout the country that carry the channel. And of course, that would make sense. We're not talking about people that stop and watch. These are potential viewers. It's like a cable network will tell you that they are in 80 million homes. There might be 5 homes that watch it, but they are in 80 million. So CNN is saying that there are that many people traveling through airports who, if they stopped and wanted to watch TV, they'd be seeing us. Don't know how many of them actually do, but if you want to catch the news, the latest on tsunamis, or Trump being impeached, or what have you, you have to watch CNN in an airport to do it. What I would do, if just buy your own jet, And you don't have to go through public airports this way, and it's never a problem.
Rush Limbaugh, making radio.
El Rushbo meeting and surpassing all audience expectations every day. Open line Friday, and to Centerville, Utah. Next, this is Kevin. Great to have you, sir. Hi.
Yes, thanks for taking my call, Rush. Now my bucket list is complete. I'm only 60. I'm going to have to add to it. So I've noticed on the evening news that from the mainstream media that they're showing all these normal, what we consider normal storms as these big climate events. And they're having the weather babes on there talking about it. It's almost every night they're talking about weather, and it's just a normal storms. It seems like to me.
Oh, you're exactly right. It's very shrewd of you to notice this. This is part of the... See, what happened was they initially called it global warming, and then a 15-year period of no warming happened. In fact, we're still in it. I have no reason to lie to anybody about this, folks. I'm not in the business of being wrong, and I don't say things I don't believe just to be provocative or to get noticed, because I don't have that problem. I'm hell-bent on being right and being able then to persuade people. And I'm telling you, researching this more than anybody's researched anything for a term paper or a doctoral thesis. I'm telling you, we're in the middle of a gigantic hoax. And by the way, stand by soundbites 23 and 24, just to show you this in a minute here. We've had two of the chilliest years, these past 2 years, overall, recorded temperatures. You ever notice that when it's a cold day and people say, well, what about climate change? They say, you can't compare the weather every day to climate. They're two different things. And yet, when it's 110 degrees in July, they say, see, climate change. But overall, worldwide temperatures are down the past 2 years. So they had to come up with a new term, climate change, since there wasn't any warming. And that allows any weather event to be portrayed as extraordinary, unusual, outside the normal pattern. See? Climate change. See? You're quick. You're very shrewd out there to notice this, sir, because it's all part of the politics of selling it. Here, this afternoon, CNN International, Christiane Amanpour has a show. And she was talking to UK astronomer Royal Lord Martin Rees about his new book, On the Future, Prospects for Humanity. And Christiane Amanpour said, when you look towards what is the biggest existential threat to our planet, is it an asteroid colliding with the mothership? That would be Earth. What is the biggest existential threat to our planet?
What I worry about most are the kind of risks that are induced by us humans, either collectively on the climate or the environment, or individually, because technology is so powerful that even a few people can have a really catastrophic effect that cascades globally. And as I say in my book, I look in this astronomical perspective, and the Earth's been around for 45 million centuries. But this is the first when one species, namely the human species, has the future of the planet in its hands. Because what we do in this century will determine whether we leave a depleted planet for future generations or whether we can survive sustainably.
I remember 30 years ago, when I started telling people, you wait, they're going to start saying the greatest threat to the Earth is humanity. And they're now doing it. And this guy, Lord Martin Rees, Royal Lord Martin Rees' new book, On the Future, Prospects for Humanity, we are the first species in 45 million centuries that hold the fate of the planet in our very hands. Now, if I had been hosting this program instead of Christiane Amanpour, I would have said, okay, well, let's say that somebody ordered you to destroy the planet, gave you a government directive, destroy the habitat, destroy whatever you're doing. What would you do? What would you advise? Forget whether you agree with it or not. Listen, your superior demands that you destroy the Earth. What would you do? How would you do it? I would love one of these clowns because I know what they would say. Well, nuclear detonation. Wait a minute. Nuclear detonation isn't climate change. If you want to, and you're not going to destroy the habitat. You might destroy it for human beings, but you're not going to destroy life on the planet. Nobody's ever going to be able to do that. Life will survive no matter what, somewhere, somehow. The point is, this is how they get people hating themselves, blaming themselves, and this is when they set up redemption for all of this damage you're causing. You can make amends by voting Democrat, voting big government, what have you. I'm sure it's already happened somewhere, but the 7.0 earthquake near Anchorage is going to be chalked up to climate change. It's axiomatic. It's automatic. It's a given. And people are not going to question, well, what do we do to cause the... Well, pressure we're putting on the earth, so many cars shipping so many fossil fuels, pipelines, we'll make up whatever it takes to make neophytes believe that if it weren't for humanity doing whatever humanity does, there wouldn't have been an earthquake. And if it's really got severe damages, they're going to say that even this kind of an earthquake would not have caused this kind of damage years ago, but because of climate change, they just throw it at everything. If you doubt me, I mean, now the greatest threat to the earth is human beings. And this isn't new. They have been trying to promulgate this for as long as I have been doing this program. Now, the people that have been doing it up to now have been armchair scientists, political activists, but now, I mean, this is UK astronomer Royal Lord Martin Rees, and he's talking to Christiane Amanpour on CNN International, and she followed up that previous answer. She was in a state of disbelief. She was so excited she could barely contain herself.
Do you know, that's an extraordinary comment. The Earth has been around for that many millions of decades, but this is the first time that a species, our species, faces a catastrophic extinction?
Well, it's up to us. We could cause a catastrophic extinction, but let's hope we don't. But there's never been a state when one species has so dominated the planet, and we are uniquely empowered by technology, of course.
So basically you're saying that the existential threat to our planet is us.
Yes.
Man, oh man, I contend to you that only one thing really would permit somebody to readily agree with such glittering ignorance, and that is politics. Saying something along humanity, the human species, the only thing forcing catastrophic extinction, the human species. The only way you would possibly believe that is if somehow it fits with your political agenda. And the way this fits with political agenda is the solution, which is big government, massive power investment in big government regulation, punitive regulation, telling people how they can and cannot live, what they can and cannot do, what they can and cannot eat, all predicated on the fact that human beings, unregulated, uncontrolled, left to their own devices, are the biggest agents of destruction on the planet. And only the learned of the species, the Robert Muellers and the McCabe's and the Lord Martin Reeses and the James Hansons and the Elon Musks, only they will have the freedom to behave as they wish while directing and telling others what they can and can't do. It is the epitome of totalitarianism, and that's what they're striving for. And they get dupes like Christiane Amanpour, who thinks this kind of thing is brilliant and brave, very, very brave to make such a statement. Humanity, with our technology, of course, leading to catastrophic extinction. Gee, I hope we don't. I hope we don't, he says. Kind of, you wonder why young people are scared to death to leave the basement? All right. Back to the phones we go. This is Mark in Hartwick, New York. Great to have you with us on Open Line Friday. Hi.
Well, hi, Rush. It's certainly an honor and a pleasure to speak with you. I want to talk to you about political labeling, conservatism versus liberals and such like that. But first I have to tell you, 30 years ago I walked out to my car to have lunch, and I turned on the radio to listen to the local weather, and I heard your voice. And I heard you say this is the second day of my second week, so I want to apologize for missing the first 6 days of your program, but I've been a loyal listener ever since.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I'm always amazed. Everybody knows exactly where they were and what they were doing the first time they heard this program.
We all appreciate you, Rush. I consider you the voice of America, and some of us who are old enough, we know what the Voice of America used to be, a service, a radio service, but now you are the voice of America. We appreciate that. And I also want to quickly say, I've tried to call you hundreds of times. When the phone actually rang, I was almost in shock. And I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but your phone number that you give out for the show must be the most dialed phone number in the history of the phone. Now, on to conservatism versus liberals. I have thought for the longest time it's not fair or accurate to refer to Democrats or progressive Democrats or socialist Democrats as liberals. In fact, there's nothing liberal about their approach to politics. The only true American liberals are the conservatives. We're the ones that are concerned about our own personal liberties and freedoms, and it's the Democrats who are always trying to limit our freedoms, our liberties, take them away from us any way they can, get whatever kind of socialist power they can over society, and take control. And I think you're the big voice. You just might be the guy with enough influence to start a new kind of a wave, a new trend to strip the Democrats of that term liberal. No longer refer to them as liberal. Call them what they are. They're progressive socialist government takeovers, and their liberalism just doesn't apply to them in any way, shape, or form.
No, you are exactly right, and I'm really glad that you made that point. And I want to take the occasion of your call, to thank you, because I appreciate it very much. All that you said. In fact, Voice of America. That's very, very nice. I appreciate that. But this whole business of labeling, Gino's call yesterday, it might represent a segment of thinking, what do you mean selling out? There's no sellout at all here, folks. Let me just spend a couple of short minutes explaining this to you. And some of you have heard me say this before, so it may be redundant, but I spend a lot of time reading liberals or socialists. I read liberal sports writers. I read liberal tech journalists. I read the drive-by media people. I study it. I know conservatism. It's who I am. I don't need to read conservatives to reinforce what I already am and know of myself. I don't need somebody to tell me what's in my heart. I know it. And I'm constantly, as I think about doing this program each day, I'm constantly asking myself what would be if I ever really had a singular focus on this program, which I've never had, but if it were a singular focus, and if I ever decided to change this focus, this is just a mental exercise for me, to nothing but the attempt to persuade people of the truth of conservatism, what would I do? How would I do it? I am constantly asking myself this, in part because I hope each day I'm going to get a call from a liberal that will allow me to put to use some of these things. And the most recent time that happened was a 13-year-old girl called and wanted to know if I thought citizenship should be something hard for non-residents to achieve. So when I say to you and discuss with you the idea that I think conservative or conservatism as a brand has been destroyed and is hurting us, it's not because I just created this thought out of my head. It's because I'm reading. I am reading voluminously and omnivorously liberals of all demographics. I focus on trying to find millennials. And I see I see the absolute ways their minds have been poisoned about who you and I are. I see that their minds are totally closed. At the same time, they are arrogant and snarky and superiorist. They are not open whatsoever to any alternative way of thinking about anybody who isn't liberal in their minds like they are. Now, I factor all of this when I think about the occasion it might present itself when I'm talking to one of them and trying to persuade them. What am I going to have to do first to even be heard? Based on, I've never seen a more prejudiced bunch of people who think the exact opposite of themselves. They think they are the most tolerant and accepting and open-minded. They are none of the sort. They are arrogantly close-minded. They are arrogantly snarky. They are arrogantly superiorist. They are mean. They are angry. They hate. They live each and every day, and they write it. You can read it in how they write about things. And when they react to anything in the news having to do with anything conservative or a conservative, that's all they need to hear to tell themselves who they're dealing with. And it's not true. This is the thing. What they think of conservatism isn't true. It isn't accurate, and it isn't anywhere close. There is no hope of getting through to any of these people as a conservative. You're not going to even establish a line of communications with anybody if they think you are conservative. And it's because of the way they have been poisoned and propagandized their entire lives. And this has been happening for 50 years, and it's everywhere. It's everywhere in pop culture. It's every movie, book, television show, song, podcast, you name. Podcasts exist because they can't succeed on talk radio. The stuff that's being said in podcasts about conservatives, I'm here to tell you that you don't see 10% of what I see because you don't have the time. It's my job to do this. You've got many other requirements in your day. You don't have the kind of time to spend that I spend trying to figure all of this out. And I'll tell you, if I want it, I get livid, I get mad, ticked off, offended, and all at what these smarmy, conceited, unappreciative, spoiled, rotten little brats in their 30s think of us. And the fact that they are superiorist and better than anybody, it's a problem, folks. It's a genuine problem. And all I'm speaking of here when I talk about this is potential solutions to it, because I think they're necessary, mandatory. Anyway, I've got to take a break here. I'm way long, and there's more to say about this, but I just wanted to give you some foundation for why this week I've talked about the branding problem that conservatism. Now, liberalism, you want to get really confused? If you go to an ideological conservative, you know what they'll tell you conservatism is? Classic liberalism. They'll say to you, I am a classical liberal. I look at them and say, what? Who the hell knows what you're talking about? A classical liberal? Yes, in the great reputation of Edmund Burke, I am a classical. Hey, pal, nobody knows what you're talking about. Well, we are not conservative, and the real thing, we are classical liberals, and they aren't the liberals, we are. Oh, gee, spare me. That's what I...
All righty, there it is. Oh, yeah. It's that time.
Somebody call me, tell me I'm alright. Somebody call me, I'm afraid of the night. I heard the rumble of thunder, I shivered when the wind blew. I know in my heart there's a storm coming through. Somebody call me, I'm here all alone. Somebody call me, I'm staring at the telephone. I heard her whisper goodbye. Now my tears run true. I know in my heart there's a storm coming through. Yesterday my eyes were dry. Sun was shining, not a cloud in the sky. I said don't go, she said I can't stay. Now the storm's coming through, gonna wash me away. Yesterday my eyes were dry. Sun was shining, not a cloud in the sky. I said don't go, she said I can't stay. Now the storm's coming through, gonna wash me away. Somebody call me, tell me I'm alright. Somebody call me, I'm afraid of the night. I heard the rumble of thunder, I shivered when the wind blew. I know in my heart there's a storm coming through. I heard her whisper goodbye. Now my tears run true. I know in my heart there's a storm coming through.
I got a sweet, sweet woman, is way down in Tennessee. Got a sweet, sweet woman, is is way down in Tennessee. I'm crazy about my baby, she's the only gal for me. I won't see my baby, I don't have my train fare. I won't see my baby, I don't have my train fare. Gonna hitch up my pony, I'm gonna saddle away from here.
What are the seeds PNC plants to help young kids grow up great? Giving more than $150 million toward early childhood.
My mind begins to ramble, and my heart gets full of pain. My mind begins to ramble, and my heart gets full of pain. Every time I think of that girl, my tears they fall like showers of rain. I won't see my baby, I don't have my train fare. I won't see my baby, I don't have my train fare. I'm gonna hitch up my pony, I'm gonna saddle away from here. Hi, old Silver. I got a sweet, sweet woman lives way down in Tennessee. I got a sweet, sweet woman lives way down in Tennessee. I'm crazy about my baby, she's the only gal for me. Hey, old Silver, come on, boy.
Gotta find my way back. Gotta find my swampy home. Gotta find my way back. Back to the swamp where I belong. Been gone such a long time. Mama, I'm coming home. Been gone such a long time. Mama, I'm coming home. Gotta find my way back. Gotta find my Louisiana home. Gotta find my way back. Way down south where I belong. Been 10 years in prison. Mama, I'm coming home. Where the bodies in the swamp were hidden. Mama, I'm coming home. No, I took the money. I took the money and I hid it good. No, I took the money, buried it deep out in them woods. 10 years in prison. Mama, I'm coming home. Where the bodies in the swamp are hidden. Mama, I'm coming home. Gotta find my way back. Gotta find my swampy home. Gotta find my way back. Deep in the swamp where I belong. Been gone such a long time. Mama, I'm coming home. Been gone such a long time. Mama, I'm coming home. Oh yeah. Get that crawfish pie ready, Mama. And that gilly gone. You don't know what I've been eating.